I've been reading them quietly out loud. So
Well, you do fine when you have your glasses.
yeah.
You just couldn't fucking see. So like you struggle.
I don't think my eyesight is that bad. It's just like I don't know. Maybe it's a placebo.
It's
I think
very
it's a placebo.
bad.
I think it's a placebo. No, it's not that bad. It's a placebo. I'm probably fine. It's just all in my head that I think that my eyes get better because it's such a slight difference that I can live without glasses. So it's like it's not real.
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's true.
Let me live in peace, bro. I just
I don't necessarily know if that's true.
Ooh.
Am I live?
I don't know. It doesn't say you're live. Hold on, let me restart the page.
Yes, I am.
No. You are not in fact live.
You're a liar because I'm literally looking at it right now.
I'm looking at it right now on my YouTube.
I have it pulled
it
up
says
on my
you're live.
YouTube. It says I'm live.
Yeah, it does say you're live. It took me a second, okay? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hold on, wait. I need to make this new playlist. Are you guys excited? Does she always stream this late? Yes, I do. Well, it's only 5 p.m. my time, guys. It isn't that late.
I think we could raise the volume on the mics just a smidge. Just a smidge. It's a little quiet on my end.
It shouldn't be. I have you turned up all the way.
Huh. I don't know. Maybe it's just like, maybe it's literally just my headset being wonky. But we sound fine other than that.
Can you refresh and see now?
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds better. Yippee!
Okay.
Woohoo!
We're getting
What is this
close to the end. Huh?
What is this music?
What's wrong with my fucking music?
Nothing. It's
What the fuck is wrong with my— This was made by the same person that plays Telemachus in Epic the Musical.
Is it?
Yes!
I can't hear it very well.
You're such an asshole.
I've never heard that song in Epic.
It's not an Epic, it's made by the same artist.
Oh, well, I don't like it. But
Well, I don't like your taste anyways.
well, okay, but my taste is peak in my heart and soul, and many people would agree, right, chat? One if you agree. One if you agree. I want to see ones in the chat.
I need to try my sad playlist.
I like to listen to like dramatically like classical music. When I read
know!
this fic with dramatic classical music and it was devastating. Oh my god. It was so bad. I was crying.
Can you guys hear the
Don't
music?
ever do that.
I don't even think they can hear it.
It's there. It's a little bit quiet in the background if that's what you want though. Like it's not too loud. It's fine to me. It's real. It's real to me. What are we agreeing to? Just say yes.
It's fine. Okay.
You're agreeing. If you say yes, you're on my side. Because I'm so much better.
Beetle, did you see my new Tumblr post?
No, I actually haven't been on the internet as of late because I've been working on schoolwork and then sleeping and then at my work.
I want you to pull up
God.
my recent Tumblr post.
Okay, now pull up. Let me see. What is it about? Is it about For the Forgotten Ones?
Just look.
I'm scared. Is it gonna be devastating that I'm gonna be sad and then you're gonna like keep kick me in the face and kill me?
No.
I don't like that you're like, just look. Just look. Okay. Cooling. Rousa. route. Why can't it find you? Did I spell this fucking? Oh yeah, I spelled it like cool lint. Okay. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Miracle Wizard, I have a feeling you really enjoyed the new post. Have you been, Rosa? I've been good. A bit tired, but it is what it is. I'm waiting for my food to get here before we officially start. Like, they're literally in the parking lot, so they should be here soon. I hope.
Sweet. Mukbang! Okay, let's see. The Psychology of Aramare? No. Hell no.
Click
You're
read
gonna
more.
kill me with
No,
three
click,
spoons.
Click read
3
more,
spoons.
and I want you to scroll.
Okay. Do I have to read this?
No.
Or am I just looking at the
just
picture?
Scroll,
Okay.
just scroll through. See how long it is.
I've seen this one. Oh my god. Rosa! Rosa! Why didn't you make this into a video? You could have made this into a
That's
video.
what everyone's saying. Everyone was like, why didn't you make it into a video instead? But then I was
You
like,
should still do it.
none of my video essays are about ships. It's about like... Oh, DoorDash is trying to call me. Give me a second.
Grr, grr. I think she should make it into a video. I don't think it matters if it's about ships or not. Ooh, you know what'd be interesting? If Rosa went into depths about like different types of ships within the fandom. I think that would be a good idea. It's okay if not. I'm gonna steal that idea, if anything. Probably not. I'm not a very good video essay type of guy. I work here, you know? I just work here. I can't even write an essay to save my life. I'm in an art appreciation class, and I have to like write like 3 different essays that's due Sunday at 11. What day is it? Tonight at 11:59 a.m. and I've done most of them. I just have one more left, and that's like my midterm, which is like 4 short essays. I got that in the bag. But yeah, it's hard to write, guys. Gang, it's hard to write. Also, speaking of writing, I have started writing my fanfiction. A fanfiction very interesting. It focuses less on romantic, sexual and romantic relationships, but more on a familial relationship and how, or in platonic relationships, and how you can like dive deeper in that. I'm using Underfell as the base. Also, there is a theme of mystery in the fic as well. We're starting off slow, so nothing crazy has happened yet. I'm only a few chapters in. If you want to check it out, Faded Bravery on AO3. I'll even pull up the link. And honestly, please comment. Comment if you have any ideas, any fucking, what is it called? It starts with a C. Commentation? No. What is it? What a freak. What is it called? Critique. Let me pull it up. Okay, now pull up. Alright. Copy. I am totally plugging in my work here. Here we go. There you go. Get a load of this guy. It's honestly not that great because this is my first time ever writing any type of like long form story. I'm not a long form kind of guy. My writing style is like for emails. I was taught write quickly, write efficiently, get straight to the point. So this is hard. Give me grace. Also a little bit more. You guys get inside information. Oh my god, I need to stream again. I haven't had the time to stream. I know last time we streamed, last time I personally streamed was like when we were doing Deltarune, right? We only got up to chapter 2, and apparently I did the genocide route without knowing. If I do stream Deltarune again, I'm just restarting chapter 2. Actually, no, that's a lie. I already restarted chapter 2. So honestly, we might just move on to chapter 3 with a peaceful route. Had to go out and get food, coming back. Why does she do the ... It scares me. Okay, Null, our wonderful Null Noodle, who is a part of the Rose group, the Rose Gang. I love them to pieces. They are so funny, so wonderful. I had them as a little guest on my stream because I wanted somebody to tell me what to do to get good stuff. And they're like, you're gonna do this 100%. I was like, okay. Don't know what that means, but sure. And they tricked me. They're evil. Slash love. They're evil slash love. After the stream, they were like, I'm so sorry for lying to you. And I was like, it's fine. It's funny. They're so silly. I love them. So yeah, I'm hoping that when we do chapter 3, when I do chapter 3, I can get them back. I can steal them away. I have not been reading chat, by the way. My bad. I've been monologuing. Hi, everyone. I can't wait to...
Get it.
Well, yeah. Did you think they would bring it to your room?
I live in a townhouse.
Yeah?
I have a porch. Beetle.
Yeah. So why...
No,
Wait,
I had to
I'm
go
confused.
out to the
You
parking
said it,
lot.
like... Oh! Why didn't you specify? Because going
because
outside is weird.
I thought you were getting mad at me for having to go downstairs to get it from the
I'm not mad! No! I was confused. I was like, do you not normally go outside to get your food?
No.
I was being silly.
Okay.
I'm not mad.
I missed it right when they were
How dare you go
about...
get your food?
I missed it right when they were talking about my Aramir thing.
Oh yeah, I was talking about how you should make it a video and that it doesn't matter if it's about a ship or not. And if you wanted to, you can go into a whole thing about talking about different ships throughout the, what is it called? Fandom?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and how the fandom takes it, or like how people react to it, or like how they are canonically or non-canonically people's ideas. I just think it's a good idea. You don't have to do it. I was just like, theorizing.
Mm-hmm.
I like to theorize and be like, yeah. Yeah.
Fetus Rosa?
I think that would be fun.
My food! Okay,
My
guys.
food.
Let's go through the rundown. This is for the Forgotten Ones. For anyone that does not know what that is, this is a Undertale fanfiction made by I'm_sorry_buddy. It's a very fun fanfiction. Me and Beetle read it out loud almost every weekend. Not last weekend because Cooling Rosa was hungover. And could not make it. I don't know who she is, but she just couldn't make it for some reason. So every weekend we try to read around 4 chapters. Lately we haven't been really reading 4 chapters because someone didn't have their glasses. So we switch off every chapter. I read one chapter, the Beetle reads another, you know, so on, so forth. We are almost done with the fanfiction. I mean, when I say almost done, we have 15 more chapters. Which sounds like a lot, but like when you break it down to 4 each stream, it's not
8 more.
much.
8 more years to go.
Literally 8 more? I mean, breaking it down, it's
8 more
like,
years.
I think there's only... Me doing math in my head right now? I think there's only like 4-ish streams left. Only 4 more streams left of FTFO. I think that could be completely wrong and I could have gotten that really incorrect. Can't wait for the chapter Air Nightmare Kiss. Me too. Okay. So some rundowns for also new people. I have a folder now, well, a playlist now on my account where it goes into depth of all the FTFO stuff. It has every single like video that we've made. Here, wait, I'm pulling up one of my favorite
Pull up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, I pull up.
I'm a little bit excited.
I had to turn off the
I
music
love
for a
reading.
sec. Where is the... Where is this? What? Where is it?
My favorite chapter is when Inksands is free and happy and is never hurt again. That's my
Which
favorite
never
chapter.
will happen. It never will. Where is it?
Not my thing being buggy. I hate you, die. Lovingly.
I'm trying to find something real quick. Hold on. It was a certain playlist that I always turned on for this, but I don't know where it is. As I'm continuing, this fanfic does have stuff that is triggering to, you know, some viewers. There is going to be physical abuse, mental abuse, psychological torture. There's a lot of violence in these upcoming chapters, and a lot of medical malpractice. What else is there? It does get pretty graphic in these upcoming chapters, just so you're aware. And the abuse is not just like referenced as much.
It's abusing.
It's abusing right now.
Sure thing, sure is.
Overall, it's pretty dark right now. Going through it. So please keep that in mind when we're continuing this. It can be triggering for some people, and I don't censor anything here. I just give these trigger warnings from off the bat, just to make it more like everyone prepared. If I remember certain scenes, it's been a very long time since I've read it. If I remember certain scenes and I remember something's coming up, I will call it out. Can't completely promise that I'll remember everything, so just keep in mind that these next chapters are going to be a lot darker than the beginning ones of FTFO. It's gonna get pretty dark here. What else do I usually say? While this is a reading, me and Beetle will make jokes. We don't take it completely seriously because we have to make jokes to cope with the sadness that is FTFO.
Oh yeah.
So I will be mostly cutting in during Beetle's reading, making jokes. One time I called ink infertile. That is just something we do here.
Oh my god, you said insane things. I'm not gonna lie.
I've said pretty insane things, and I will say mostly it's uninterrupted listening, but you know, we do make jokes sometimes.
Like Spotify Premium.
We do make jokes sometimes. We do.
We do be a bit of, okay.
Yeah, we do that.
We're a bit of funny and humor.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'm not a professional voice actor. It's not gonna be perfect. Whatever. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something else before we started. Oh, keep the chat on topic. It's fine to have small discussions that are kind of similar to the fic or even just about your day. We've had problems where people will just start randomly venting or talking seriously about random stuff in their life, or getting really personal in the chat, and they think that me and Beetle can't see it because we're reading, but when we're alternating off, guys, we can see the chat. And it's not fun. It kind of makes everyone feel a bit awkward, and we're not professionals and we cannot help with that. We're trying to read a fan fiction. Please try to keep on topic. I say that very kindly. You know, we will see it, and we will be giving out warnings if it does happen. I mean, we're not going to be, like, passing out bans, but you will be...
I'll be passing out bans.
Okay. You will be quieted down for a bit. Just make sure to keep that in mind. Stay on topic. Don't get super dark. I think that's it.
It's fanfic time.
It's fanfic time.
The only sad and depression that's allowed to be here is in the fic.
Yes.
Everyone has to be happy.
Yeah.
You all need to be joyous in the chat.
And again, it's okay to have small talk about just general stuff because you are just listening to us talk and read. I can understand how that can be boring at times when you want to have a discussion with people. We're here for like 4 to 5 hours at a time. I completely get it. Just try to keep it not super crazy serious. We're having fun here. And me and Beetle just feel bad having to like mute you when you're like talking about like your parents' divorce or something. Like, we don't want to do it, so just don't do it, you know?
And my arm fell off. My leg fell off.
My leg fell off.
I can't feel my toes because my leg fell off.
And
I'm bald.
You get muted. Okay.
I play Call of Duty.
I'm also very tired today, so if I stumble and if I sound off, that's because I am very tired. So try my best. Keep that in mind. I will do the best I can with what I can. Okay?
Did you just drink water? Like, did you have, like, the heartiest sip of water ever just now?
Is that a problem?
I heard it. It was very satisfying.
Okay.
Surprisingly. I was...
Okay. Here we go, guys. Chapter 35 in onward. Let's go!
Goodbye!
Okay. Chapter 35. Hope and Dream. Capitalized. Look at that. The black snakes were a soothing weight near Ink's neck. They curled up safely within his scarf, so close to his bone that Ink felt the coldness of Cyan's scales. Ink tried to set a good example and not show his nerves, but he could not stop himself from clinging to the couch cushion below him in a futile attempt to stop himself from shaking. Blue gave him an encouraging smile that Ink couldn't make himself return. He was just glad that no one asked if he wanted to go to the isolated and likely lab-like medbay instead of staying here, in the open with the stars and Gino nearby. If Underswap Gaster, who insisted on being called Swapster, was put off by Ink's tremors, he did not show it. His hands were steady as he carefully moved Ink's leg in order to examine the golden code's nullifying cuff from another angle. Already off to a terrible start. The Gaster that Blue affectionately called Not Dad seemed nice. He did not seem to hate or blame Ark for the game's actions. He also did not poke at the device or anything, not even as a joke, like some scientists might have. He had even asked before moving Ink's loose pant leg, or getting near him at all. Ink still had his old clothes on, but at least he'd been able to shower. Blue had washed his outfit as best he could. His scarf was clean, and his black lawn sleeve was wearable now that the arm sling and brace were gone, but there were still holes and black stains on the paint leg. Someone get him new clothes, bro. Ink still preferred it to the alternative. His shield attire was in his satchel. He couldn't bear the thought of wearing it. Ink wished Aster was here. He tried to trust that Swapster knew what he was doing and had no ill intent, but he could not calm his nerves. He knew one wrong move might set the cuff off. Part of him began going through how to deal with a violent amputation and sharp nail damage, while the other part of him silently panicked and braced for pain. So sad. Only Ink, Blue, Swapster, Judge, and Gino were directly present as the scientists worked. That's a lot of people. Underswap Asgore lingered close by, while Edge and Color patrolled. Both Asgore and Dream seemed torn between wanting to stay in case something happened, and not wanting to see it if something did. Eventually, Dream settled in an armchair near the unlit cobblestone fireplace, while Gino did his best not to be too obvious that he was hovering, and utterly failed at his attempts to hide his suspicious stares. Telling Dream what happened to Nightmare was both the most difficult and simplest thing Ink had done since he was brought to the Omega timeline. Other than the unhealthy sheen to his skull and the increasing dullness of his eyelights, Dream had taken the news of Nightmare's corruption calmly. Too calmly, if Ink was being honest. He had the feeling that Dream was repressing his emotions like the gang sometimes did, and Ink himself as well. Dream was definitely trying not to think about what he had learned. Ink hoped that Dream would have the opportunity to process it and wouldn't let it fester like the gang would. Ink tried to focus on his surroundings instead of Dream or Swapster. Dream's home was not the biggest place, but it was comfortable now that the dust and furniture covers were gone. Walnut veneer paneling covered the walls, which complemented the fabric of the stone gray couch, and matching armchairs nicely. The blue diamond designs on the furniture gave it pops of color. However, the thing that caught Ink's attention was one of the pictures on the mantel. He was pretty sure it had been laying face down when they arrived, but Gino had dusted it off and left it standing. It showed a still image of Dream and Cross. They both looked happier. It hurt to know that at least some of Cross's happiness had been faked. This was the house Dream and Cross lived in. Because they were gay, I guess. Ink blatantly realized. No wonder he didn't want to come back here. Swapster finished his inspection of the cuff and put Ink's leg down. Do you want the good news or the less good news first? Please just tell me, Ink requested. Swapster obliged. The good news is that I recognize the design for the nullifier. The less good news is that the explosive is likely triggered to go off if it's cut into. I can, however, disrupt the signals and hopefully prevent that command from getting through. Someone more knowledgeable in this field may be able to get you your coding abilities back. Will it be enough for me to help Gino? Ink kept the question to himself. He had to keep quiet about Gino's importance. Although he was relieved that the council had agreed to a potential hostage exchange, the counts had been concerningly close, according to Dream. Almost half the members voted in favor of keeping Ink as their hostage, though they would use less distasteful wording than that. They could not be trusted. Ink had to remain mindful of what he said in the Omega timeline. Swapster turned to his open bag and dug through its contents, taking out a type of microchip. He carefully attached it to the cuff. This is a disruptor from the science department. It should block the frequency so Fel Alphas can't trigger the explosive remotely. Should? Gino echoed doubtfully. Wow. Whoa, okay. Okay. There is no guarantee unless Fel Alphas gives us the exact frequency she uses. Judge made a frustrated sound. We can't find her. As for Felgaster, he's pretending he had nothing to do with it. I have nothing to directly pin on him except an attempted wrongful imprisonment. Even if we arrest him, there are a lot of guards that may be on his side. You saw how easily he recruited some to get to you. They'll release him. Which is why we're getting Ink out of the Omega timeline, Dream insisted. Right. Blue stopped his attempts to contact his brother and sat down on the couch beside Ink. How do we want to do this? You mean call the game? Ideally, we'd have some type of hostage negotiator involved, Judge noted. Unfortunately, I think that'd make it even worse in this case. Ink grimaced. I understand you want to coach me on what to say, but how do I make it sound like you're not feeding me lines with a knife to my throat? You are worryingly specific about that phrasing, Blue noted uneasily. Ink made sure he did not reach for his scarred neck and shrugged. It's what they're going to think. They expect the worst. Dream leaned heavily against the back of his armchair. His face was drawn and his eyelights were pale. Do you think you can convince them not to harm Red? Yes, Ink said without hesitation. Because they all listen to me. Dream closed his eye sockets. Then perhaps you should speak for yourself. Ink had the feeling that Color would disapprove. Color was too busy patrolling to disapprove. Besides, Ink did not particularly care what he thought. He'd waited long enough. He was calling his brothers. Ink hesitantly detached his bracelet from around his scarf and put it on his wrist. Everyone, including Cyan and Gold, watched intently as he activated it with his magic. There were so many messages that Ink was surprised the bracelet hadn't run out of room. He didn't want to take the time to listen to them all, especially with an audience and surveillance nearby. I'd call Horror, but if Horrortail is in enough trouble that the game stole core parts, he'll be under a lot of stress already. Cross has his issues. Killer is already scared and won't react well. Please let Dust be willing to listen. Ink anxiously watched a scarf emblem appear on his bracelet, solidified and darkened as the call was answered. Ark. Ink was so happy to hear Dust's voice that he wanted to cry. Crying would be an extremely bad idea in this situation, so he kept his emotions in check. They know my name, Ink said quietly. They haven't hurt me. You're lying. Dust's voice was tightly controlled. That was not tightly controlled. Oops. Ink heard footsteps.
You're lying. You're lying. The liar. You are like Papa.
He says, tightly controlled. Ink heard footsteps in the background. It sounded like someone else was trying to quietly move closer. The people I am with haven't hurt me, Ink amended, and they're determined to make sure no one else can. They saved me from Dr. Felgaster before he could take me to a lab. Red hasn't been harmed, Dust replied stoically, and Ink could tell he was not speaking just to him, but to those around him. We have him in a magic nullifying cell, or has been feeding him, but other than that, he's been left alone. The painful tension in Ink's chest eased slightly upon hearing that. Dust sounded apathetic, but Ink could tell he was barely holding himself together. He closed his eye sockets and saw a clear image of Dust standing in Horrortail's castle, with his wrist held up to his mouth. his eyelids shrunken with stress as the Gain silently hung around him and prayed that whatever Dust said wouldn't result in pain for Ink. This is so messed up, Ink thought miserably. He kept his unease out of his voice. I wish you hadn't taken him in the first place, but thank you for not hurting him. Well, it got results, Dust said bitterly. His comment only reinforced the idea that absolutely no one was happy with the situation. Ink's remaining fears loosened their chokehold on him, and he took a steadying breath. We can resolve this without more violence. The Mega Timeline Council has agreed to an exchange, and even if they didn't, Blue and Dream would help me get out anyway. There was a muffled sound. The Star Sanses are there? Dust's voice had an edge to it. Ink ignored Blue's worried look and answered honestly. Yes. Like I said, they saved me from Dr. Felgaster. Dream stood up against the council to keep me safe, and Blue offered me refuge in Underswap. Aster tried to help too, but Felgaster hurt him. I think he's trapped in the void. I can't use codes right now to find him. Ink tried to keep calm, but he could feel his grip on his emotions slipping away. The last time Ink had heard Dust's voice, he'd been begging Corrupted to stop. The last time he saw Dust, he'd nearly died at Corrupted hands. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave like that. Everything was hurting and I didn't know where I was, and when I saw the purple on Cross, I panicked because I thought it wasn't safe, so I portaled out of there like an idiot. The thoughts Ink had been trying not to have spread through his mind and his vision blurred. Despite how unlikely it was due to his injuries, he couldn't help but think that if he had kept calm when he was hurt, they wouldn't be in this situation right now. The Mega Timeline would not have Ink. Dr. Felgaster wouldn't know Ink was the protector. The gang wouldn't have captured Red in retaliation. Aster wouldn't be gone. The other scientists wouldn't be casualties in the attack on Aster. And maybe Ink would have made progress to help Error and Nightmare already. Hey, it's not your fault. You were hurt badly. Any attempts Dust made at remaining stoic and cold fell apart. He audibly softened, and Blue stared at Ink's bracelet in shock, like he couldn't recognize Dust's voice anymore. No one else is injured. We're all safe. Corrupted hasn't managed to get in, and we've got Horatel's core back up and running. A chill spread through Ink's bones. Is Horror doing okay? Horror's a little stressed, but he's fine. Us and Paprika have been making sure he takes care of himself. We're all as okay as we can be. Those around Ink listened to Dust try to soothe him and had a variety of reactions. Gino had a stubborn glint to his eyelight that told Ink that he knew what side he was choosing if a fight broke out. Blue seemed surprised at first, then compassionate and understanding. Judge did not change expression much, but appeared satisfied. Swapster listened quietly but intently. Dream was distant and wistful in a dazed way. Okay. Ink rubbed his eye sockets and took a shaky breath. You better not be downplaying it. I'm not. But you are hiding something, Ink noted. He remembered his situation and wished he could take the verbal accusation back. Dust hesitated. Ink could picture him looking at the other members of the gang, for help or maybe for permission. Whatever they signaled made Dust release an audible growl. You know what? I don't care if that bastard hears it. Xcaster is probably still alive. We think he's in the Omega Timeline somewhere. He put a piece of his soul inside Crosses while he was there. Ink closed his mouth tightly, so he would not start laughing hysterically from pure stress. If he started laughing, his laughter would soon evolve into a full-on panic attack. The chill that settled inside his soul seemed to creep outward into his ribcage, like icy vines were prickling his core with thorns. He never thought to look inside Cross's soul for something. The mere idea of such tampering made him feel nauseous. At Dust's words, Dream jolted like he'd received an electric shock, while Blue looked equally stricken. I forgot. Dream pressed his hands over his mouth, but it was too late. Dust was immediately on edge again. Was that Dream? Yes. Ink confirmed, numbly. Please tell me who else is with you, Dust requested tersely. Okay, and then we're gonna list all the motherfuckers in the room right now. Holy fuck. Jesus, look at this! Dream,
all
Blue...
the ladies in the room!
All the ladies in the room say aye! Dream, Blue, Judge Felundine, and Underswap Gaster, Underswap Asgore, Color, Edge, and Gino. You know, the whole gang. You know them. You know them all, don't you, Dust?
Yeah.
Gino entered the Omega timeline like I did. You knew that too, didn't you? And I hate it here. I hate it here. Gino said without a lick of regret. The scientist keeps staring. It's creepy as hell. Dust went silent again. Ink could tell he was woefully unprepared for this interaction. The game prepared for and expected a terse call for a hostage exchange. This call was still terse, but unlike an interaction with the likes of Dr. Felgastra would be, the other side was just as unhappy to have Ink there as the gang was that they had him. Strangely enough, that gave Ink hope. It hit Ink that the potential meetup for an exchange could be it. Either there would be a peaceful interaction for what may be the first time, maybe ever, or another fight would break out. The Omega timeline was no friend of the gang, but the stars were willing to work with them. Ink pushed his fears about X-Gaster and crossed aside. Aside, but not forgotten. That's the title of the fucking thing! Will you listen to me before reacting, please? No promises, but we'll try. Like I said, Dream, Blue, and the others protected and saved me. Ink repeated as a reminder, then braced himself. Please don't freak out, but I have a cuff on my leg that prevents me from using codes. It's rigged to explode if I leave the Omega timeline. It would take my leg off. Fucking hell. Dust breathed. He was not the only one to curse. Ink recognized the sounds of Cross and Killer's muffled swears, while the low growl was definitely horror. Listen, Ink half demanded, half begged. It was Dr. Fell and Fell Alphys that are responsible for the cuff. Not the stars, not Core Frisk. They are helping me. They are willing to trade me for Red. We can end this peacefully, without any violence. Dream slowly sat beside Ink on the couch and leaned close. His eyelights were pale, but his voice was firm. Ink's capture and imprisonment was hidden from myself and Blue, because the Council knew we'd disagree. We only found out when Cross told us Ink was here, and we acted immediately. We are returning Ink to you whether the Omega timeline agrees or not. He briefly closed his eye sockets as though he was sending a silent apology before he continued. We will not be returning back hereafter. It took Ink a moment to understand, and for Dust and the gang it took even longer. As the silence stretched on, Blue adopted a stubborn expression, while Judge nodded in silent acceptance. Ink stared at Dream in shock. You're breaking off your alliance with the Omega timeline? Dream's posture remained straight despite the wariness on his face. Yes. There are too many secrets and shadows in this place. Your treatment proved that. His voice lowered to a whisper that Ink barely caught. I'm sorry, Core. Ink's communicator remained silent. If not for the glowing album, Ink might think that Dust had hung up. There was a shuffling sound and an X album appeared beside it. I can't trust your intentions. You can't make me believe you'll turn your back on the Omega timeline only now, after everything else they've done. Oh god, the X's are talking. Oh fuck. Dream became even paler at the sound across his voice. Oh, that's awkward. Oh, wow.
Ugh.
Ink interjected before he could speak and antagonize Cross. The sun vial is full. The words meant nothing to a majority of those who heard him, but both Dream and Cross reacted strongly. Cross's breathing audibly hitched while Dream's eye sockets went round and softened. Fuck. If you do not trust the stars, trust me, Ink pleaded. I don't know everything. I don't have the history the rest of you do. I can't even imagine how much has happened between you. But something needs to change. I know it's hard to believe it, but we all want the same thing. We want to keep our families and friends safe. We want this to end without someone getting hurt. We know who the enemies are, and they are not here with us. The silence returned on both sides of the call. Ink studied the worried expressions of those around him and knew the gang looked the same way. It was Cross who spoke. How are you getting out with that cuff on you? He sounded sharp and terse, almost aggressive. Ink knew it was stress. You could not imagine how Cross felt, knowing that a piece of X-Gaster's soul was inside his own, and having to talk to Dream. Cross likely did not even trust himself, but Ink trusted him. Perhaps it was foolish of him, but it was no more foolish than his decision to trust Top. Top. Of course. Top can deactivate the nullifier, Ink realized. He's the one that created it. I believe he left the Omega timeline because of what they tried to make him do, Dream confirmed. He hated that they tried to order him to create weapons. Can you contact him and bring him here? Ink asked. Dream appeared uncomfortable and unsuccessfully tried to hide it. I can contact him, but I'm still blocked from Undertop. Ink winced. Sorry. I'll fix that when I can. Dredge rose from her seat. I'll get him. They can't stop me. She strode out, fingers flexing like she wanted to summon her red spears. As soon as the door shut, Cross spoke up again. Is she gone? Yes, Ink confirmed. I'm still not discussing an exchange point where the council can hear. That was definitely an issue. Ink wouldn't put it past Dr. Felgaster to lay a trap for them all. They needed a neutral AU without the possibility of many civilian casualties, because if a fight did break out, it would be catastrophic. Many positive AUs were protected by the Omega timeline, but the alternate universe could not be too negative either, or corrupted could show up. So they needed an empty, neutral AU without any people, but there wasn't a genocide timeline either. Something clicked. Ink's hand brushed his forearm, where an inconspicuous mark lay. He was not sure when it appeared or even how. It could be one of many that showed up while he was in the Doodle Sphere. Maybe it appeared while he was speaking to Prism. Cross, do you remember what I said about the other world? About that one world with the grassy fields where that family lived together near the circus. There was a pause before Cross replied. It exists here? Not like that, Ink commented vaguely. Not with that name, but it's there, unoccupied. His fingers brushed against the binary codes for the world that would have become Zephyral Top. He tried not to think about Aster. I think I can last another 24 hours. He bit his tongue so he would not say, I hope it doesn't take longer. Please get me out of here. I understand. Cross's voice was all busyness. Business? Yeah. Contact us as soon as Top helps you, and we'll discuss a time. Outside of that, expect a call every 5 hours. If we don't hear from you for 7... He knew Cross and the others only accepted the delay because they needed time to locate the AU that was called Zephyral Top in Prism's multiverse. It was a melancholic feeling to think about that world, which was completed enough for someone to move in, only for no one to appear. Please do not harm Red, Ink requested quietly. If there is a delay or someone seems to attack during the exchange, it isn't going to be the Stars' fault. It won't be their betrayal. Can you please remember that? Cross did not reply. Dust didn't try either. Ink could clearly picture the mistrust and suspicion warring with the hope and desperation on their face. A knife album appeared as Killer spoke up at last. If you try to use ink to hurt us, I'll make sure you burn in hell for eternity. The gang hung up. Ink lowered his wrist, then lowered his head into his hands. The conversation was calmer than he dared to hope, but the dread did not leave him. Dr. Felgaster was lurking, Fel Alphys was out there, and now Ex-Gaster may be nearby too. The cuff remained a heavy weight on his ankle, and his soul wouldn't stop pounding, leaving his hands to tremble. Gino pulled him into a one-armed hug, and Ink clung to him, unashamed. I couldn't say half of what I needed to, he fretted. They'll understand. It's not safe. Gino seemed troubled. Troubled? Who's Ex-Gaster? Ink repressed a shudder. He was sure that Gino still felt it. Bad. Very bad. He's a scientist that can manipulate and overwrite codes. He's part of the reason Air started destroying everything. His magic tends to be purple, and an obvious sign of his control is that it turns his victims' eyes purple, so keep watch for that. Gino appeared uneasy. Like Dream, he failed to hide his emotions from Ink. So watch out for Gasters. As usual, got it? No offense. None taken, Swapster said wearily. There was an unhappy twist to his mouth. Do you want me to try to counter the nullifier, or should I leave it? Ink gave the cuff an apprehensive look. I'll wait for Top. Swapster nodded absently, as though his mind was thousands of miles away. That may be a wise choice. He packed his tools with a promise to return if he was needed and left soon after. Ink let himself relax a little more once he was gone. He knew Blue trusted this Gaster, and he wasn't about to mistrust a Gaster because they were a Gaster, but still, it was too nerve-wracking to have him tinkering with the explosive on his leg. I agree to kill Ex-Gaster and Felgaster. We got half the multiverse in here. The tension lingered. It lay so heavily upon them that Ink was surprised that Dream's vitals remained as steady as they were, which wasn't saying much, but still. Even without any empathic powers, the atmosphere was stifling. Looking at the exhausted, anxious faces around him, Ink felt a rush of frustration and despair. He wasn't in the hospital room anymore, but he still felt just as trapped. Now even more people felt trapped with him and Gino. Ink checked Gino's wound and eye socket again, and his frustration doubled because although his green magic might be able to do something, he suspected it needed to use codes along with it in order to truly help. He had access to his magic, he could open a portal, but he was stuck until the cuff was deactivated or removed, unless he was willing to lose a leg. Despite the walls still closed in around him, Ink felt better knowing that the gang was alright and they were maybe willing to listen. It made him feel like he truly had a way out. Even better, the stars might go with him. Not with the gang, of course, but they'd be out of the Omega timeline, and were willing to stay in contact. It was more than he had dared to hope for. The others weren't as optimistic and relieved. If they spent the next hours to a full day stuck in here, Ink suspected that someone might actually attack the gang by the time they encountered each other. Not due to malice or betrayal, but because of the sheer buildup of fear and anxiety that was on every face, even Gino's. Dream was the most affected. Even with his empathic abilities dulled, his own woes were enough to leave him drawn and trembling with exhaustion. A simple scan was enough to show Ink just how stressed Dream was. It would only get worse as the hours passed. Ink made a decision. He called out towards the kitchen. Asgore, you're getting supplies, right? Underswap Asgore popped his head into the living area and confirmed it with a nod. Could you maybe pick up some ingredients for something we could cook, please? Ink requested. Not anything too complex, just something. Blue shot him a wary look. Why? Dream and Gino were just as puzzled. I want to make magic food while I have the opportunity. We can cook something together to pass some time. Ink's nerves got the best of him, and he ducked his head. If you want. Blue had to lean in to hear him. It was impossible to miss how he was still perplexed and hesitant. Ink was beginning to suspect that Blue was worried that he was afraid of the Star Sanses. Ink wasn't. He understood that Blue never intended to truly harm him or horror like that. Well, maybe he wanted to hurt him that first time in Outer Tail, but that was an outlier. It seemed that Ink needed to be blunter. If we spend the next day stuck in here doing nothing, we're going to stress ourselves into a panic, Ink said unrepentantly. I can handle it. This house would become... Wait, is he still talking there? Okay, wait. This house would become the cleanest place in the Omega timeline if he had to handle it, but handle it he would. But Dream needs something. Dream stirred, raising his head. I'm fine. I live with 4 Sanses plus Nightmare, Ink interrupted. I can also sense your vitals. You really need to rest. Dream appeared utterly lost. Ink had to wonder if anyone had ever told him, go take a break before. Blue absolutely tried, but maybe not as bluntly as Ink. The chat has spoken the word of voice actor, Rosa. Oh, thank you.
Facts.
Thank you. I'm not really doing a lot of acting right now. No scenes where they're screaming at each other yet. They're not screaming at each other just yet. They will eventually.
Not yet.
Not yet, though. Mm-hmm. I tell you to go take a nap, but I know you won't, Ink continued. Have you even eaten today? I doubt it since the fridge is empty. That's why Asgore is getting food, right? When did you last eat? Dream? What about you, Blue? Gino?
Eat.
Blue jumped when he was directly addressed, while Gino appeared apprehensive. Ink's eye sockets narrowed. We are not about to die. I am not in immediate danger of being recaptured, which means I'm going to force you to take care of yourselves, so help me. He remembered his promise and perked up. Can I hug you now? Dream stared, and then he nodded. Ink's hug wasn't bone-crushing, but it was firm. Dream was exhausted and not healthy in any definition of the word, but he wasn't fragile. Plus, he really needed a hug. That was reinforced when Dream gave a heavy sigh and laid his head on Ink's shoulder. Thank you. Dream seemed to steel himself. If it is not too much trouble, Asgore, could you, get, nice cream? Dream still had that horribly lost expression. Ink hoped it was because he hadn't eaten something like that in a long time, and not because he was either having memory problems or he had never gotten ice cream in his life. Ink doubted it was the last one simply because of Blue. I'm pretty sure there was a scene where they did eat ice cream together.
I think so too.
But that might have been Prison's chapter.
He needs a sweet treat.
He needs a sweet treat. He needs a sweet treat. Everyone needs a sweet treat once in a while.
Literally.
Get him Starbucks. A nice green guy has a parlor in Old Town, Blue said immediately. I will gladly pick some up for all of us, Dream, Underswap Asgore added warmly. Do you have any specific flavor in mind for yourself? Dream had that GIF rot in the stage lights look on his face again. Banana? I feel like he would hate that, honestly. I do believe they have that, Asgore mused. It granted them all a banana? It granted them all a beaming smile, one that a startled then delighted Blue returned. After he graciously accepted requests from the rest of the house's occupants, Underswap Asgore left the room, then re-emerged in a set of armor that made him look more like an Undertale Asgore than a caretaker. Did not try to leave through the front door. Why the fuck is he wearing that? What are you doing?
I'm sorry, somebody just said treat for the highlighter.
Treat for the yellow boy. True.
Banana for the banana.
Banana for the banana. I don't know, I feel like he would not like banana. I feel like he'd be a strawberry guy, but he feels like he has to pick banana because it's yellow.
I completely disagree with you, but we all can have our opinions.
Okay. Instead allowing color to transport him using a shortcut. That was all well and good, but even with his determination not to let his situation keep him down, Ink couldn't help but worry, in part due to the one person who was noticeably absent since the council meeting. He hoped that Corfrisk would show up soon, if not to help out, then to at least talk to someone and try to cope with what they'd learned. They definitely needed it. It's weird that Poppy is not canon in FTFO. I mean, I think that's for the best because I feel like with the upcoming chapters...
Poppy doesn't exist.
I'm staring
Poppy
at you, Beetle.
is
With the upcoming
somewhere.
chapters,
Shush. Poppy's gone.
Things would happen. Not good things. For that child. Anyways. Okay. Can we all admit that this scene is basically the child taking care of their parent who is not taking care of themselves and overworking themselves? Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty good interpretation of it. Ink should not be the one taking care of all these motherfuckers. He is too young to understand fully. I mean, he's a grown-ass adult, but he doesn't know as much as them, and he has to do everything. Take a little sippy sip of my water.
Oh, sippy sip of water.
Dream was not sure what to do. The waiting period between fights always made him unsettled. One constant in his life was that he always knew another fight was coming, be it in an alternate universe or the Omega Timeline's council chambers. Inevitably, the other shoe would drop, as they said, and Dream would return from whatever AU he was hiding in to wherever he was needed for the latest battle. The quiet movements left Dream with a sense of dread and anticipation that would only release when the next fight finally came, though sometimes feel a reprieve from his worry when he was an Underswap. This was not Underswap or a mission, or an AU he spent as little time in as possible. This was the Omega Timeline, which was no longer a safe haven for any of them. Maybe it never had been a safe haven for any of them. Maybe Dream should have understood that when Cross left. It was a rather depressing thought. Staying in the house that was once his and Cross's was extremely uncomfortable. He would deal with that discomfort to ensure the safety of Ark, that was Ink, and the others, but it still unsettled him. The Omega Timeline had codes meant to preserve, weaved into its air by Corfrisk, and Dream had not stayed here in years or redecorated in any way. That left many of the spaces untouched and unchanged by the passage of time. Every room held memories. Those memories fought with more recent revelations, leaving Dream in a struggle to stay afloat as he felt the water closing in over his head. Ark is Ink, the protector. Cross has a piece of X-Gaster's soul in his own. Red was captured, Dr. Fell has been performing experiments behind Core's back. X-Gaster might be here, Nightmare is... Dream breathed raggedly as he hurried past the closed door of Cross's old room and entered his own. The isolated sanctuary he sought did not wait for him. The room was empty, but it was unchanged. It had been thoroughly cleaned and its linens washed, leaving it in an eerily similar state to when he last left it. Dream's gaze slid over the light blue bedsheet, the walnut dresser, the matching bedside table, the lamp, before he found himself staring at his reflection. Dream backed away and shut the door quietly so he did not alarm any of the other occupants of the house by slamming it closed. He did not even know why he came up here. He'd come up with an excuse to hide, leave, he knew, but found himself fleeing back towards the downstairs anyway. He did not want to be here. He did not want to be in this house where Cross once lived with him. Cross, who was still hurt from Dream's accidental control. Cross, who still hated him and blamed the Omega timeline, but not as much as Cross blamed himself. Then it turned out Cross was right not to trust the Omega timeline. That was something else that Dream did not want to think about. A piece of X-Gaster's soul had been placed inside Cross's while he was here. Dream hadn't known, but he still felt like he failed his friend again. He tried to cast his mind backwards, but he had no idea when Cross might have been taken. He hadn't even noticed. He had likely not even been there. And that was not even considering what had happened to Nightmare. Dream took in a ragged breath and wrapped his arms around himself, hunching inward as he walked. He almost bumped into Pale Blue and looked up at Gino. Gino halted in place and took a hasty step back as his fingers latched onto the collar of his scarf. I thought you were going to rest until Swap Asgore came back. You okay? Gino winced and rubbed at his jaw, muttering lowly. Obviously not, jeez. Even without his powers working, Dream could tell that Gino had a melancholic air to him. It was a far cry from the outraged sands in the park by Golden Ruin. He starkly remembered seeing Gino's reaction to Ink's collapse. That had been Ink, mere feet from them, in red, and if Dream had realized, then maybe they would not be in this situation. There was little doubt in his mind that Gino was from a genocide timeline. Genocide. Oh, that was a horrific moniker to have. The presence of the scarf proved that Gino had lost his brother. Blue hadn't heard from Stretch. Dream was afraid to ask if Ink still had his brother, because if he used to, there was no way that Ink was the one that killed him. Gino's brow creased. The intensity of his eyelight lessened. Is there anything I can do? I don't think so, Dream said delicately. Don't worry about me. Gino made an attempt to not give him an incredulous look. It wasn't a very convincing attempt, but it was still an attempt. Yeah, I don't think that's possible. He hesitated and looked down at his scarf, smoothing out its ends with his fingers. Ink wasn't able to tell me everything because of all the scientists stalking us, but he could tell me enough. Don't give up on your brother, okay? He's not dead, so there's always a chance. Dream's voice caught in his throat, and his body locked up. Gino also froze up, stuck between discomfort and regret at his bluntness. Footsteps came up the stairs and they both looked towards it, united in their desperate need for distraction. Oh, I had the feeling we'd all be up. Blue smiled warmly as he joined Gino and Dream in the upstairs hallway, but Dream saw how he pulled worriedly at the cuffs of his gloves. Is Ink up here too? There was a beat of silence as Dream and Gino looked to each other for an answer. Blue's eyelids faded to a nervous white. Gino hastily spoke up. Let's not panic yet. Ink wouldn't run off, not without taking us with him. I don't know if you've noticed, but he decided you're his responsibility now. Dream stared at him. Eskinks. Why? Gino gave him that soul-piercing stare again. He opened his mouth, closed it, and turned away as he rubbed the back of his skull. I'm not opening that can, he muttered to himself before he raised his voice. Ink mentioned that he likes climbing. Does this place have an attic? A quick search proved that Ink was, in fact, in the attic. How he managed to reach the pull-down ladder and get up there without alerting anyone else was a puzzle until Dream remembered Ink had access to his magic. He probably used his chains or supported himself with his magic. In the end, they found Ink tucked between two boxes on a tall shelf. It was the highest place he could reach without climbing out onto the roof. The small space did not look too comfortable, but Ink had managed to not only squeeze himself into it, but had fallen asleep as well. What a fucking weirdo. Gino eyed Ink's impromptu sleeping space with a critical air and sighed. We should let him rest. He spent 14 hours healing people and barely... That scared me. The music scared me. 14 hours healing people and barely fell asleep before Felgaster showed up. The fabric by Ink's neck moved, and the two black snakes, cyan and gold, peeked out of the scarf. The glare of the cyan and purple-eyed one unsettled Dream much like this house did. There was something familiar about those colors. Familiar and heartbreakingly nostalgic. Without thinking, Dream held out a hand. Cyan expected it carefully, and hid an Ink scarf again. Gold gave Dream a blank look and followed the other snake. Dream slowly drew back his hand, letting his fingers grip the front of his yellow jacket. Gino spoke up. Don't take it personally. They want to guard Ink. Look. He outed his hand, The snakes peeked out of Ink's scarf again, but did not slither over to him like they usually did. Gino shoved his hands into his pockets and inspected his surroundings before choosing a sturdy crate as his seat. I'll stay up here with Ink. You need a rest as well, Dream reminded him. Gino scoffed. Like you're going to? Dream grimaced. To hell with it, Gino muttered. You look like a soft breeze will dust you. The only reason Ink didn't badger you for a checkup and healing session is because he's exhausted. Could you please rest? It won't help. I can try. Gino nodded absently. You can get us when Swap Asgore returns. Of course, Blue agreed. He grasped Dream's hand and quietly pulled him out of the attic, leaving Ink to sleep. Once they were down the hall, Blue turned to him. Where would be the best for you to at least try to sleep? Underswap? Dream kept that to himself and choked on the lie that he was fine. The sitting room is better. Anything but his own bedroom or a place with a mirror. Blue guided him to the couch and grabbed some blankets. He laid one over Dream and looked towards the stairs, holding a second blanket in his arms. Dream pulled the blanket around his shoulders. It did not ward off the constant chill in his bones. Do you think you can cover Ink without waking him? I doubt it. I think Gino wanted us away from him. Blue sat on the couch by Dream's feet and stared at the neatly folded light green blanket he held. Gino isn't sure that he can trust us. Dream already knew that. I do not blame him. Many of the people here tried to trick or hurt Ink. Hurt him and Ink. Ah, fuck. Blue smoothed his hands over the blanket. If it was anywhere near as soft as the one covering Dream, he should be able to feel its fleecy texture. Oh, not fleece. Fleecy texture even with his gloves on. Oh, that's terrible. Terrible texture. Fucking terrible texture.
I think fleece is nice. It's Sherpa that's bad. Sherpa's the evil one. It gets mixed up.
Okay.
Your jacket is made of fleece, by the way.
Maybe I'm thinking of...
You're thinking of Sherpa.
Well, I wouldn't want to sleep with a blanket with that texture of the jacket. I like the jacket, but not that type of texture.
I like the texture. I sleep with a fleece blanket. I love it. There's different types of fleeces too. It's like very warm and fuzzy, but not fuzzy in a way that it's bad. I'm sorry, go ahead.
How are you feeling, Shirley? Dream took a breath and squeezed his aching eye sockets shut. Horrible. Blue picked at a loose thread on the blanket and kept his voice low. What happened to Ink is not your fault. Same for Nightmare and Cross. Dream's eye sockets stunned. Some part of him wanted to return to the attic and climb on top of the shelves too so he could hide from everything, even if it was only for a moment. He did not want to face what Ink had told him about his brother. He did not want to think about Cross either, but he knew he couldn't ignore it forever. It seemed Blue agreed. Blue's voice stayed quiet. It's okay to be upset, Dream. I'm aware. Dream pressed a hand over his eye sockets as if the pressure would make his skull stop hurting. Cross was put under the thrall of my aura and taken behind my back to have his soul tampered with. I never noticed. My brother has been corrupted for years. I never noticed. The world I worked to protect has done horrible things behind my back. Even with my empathic powers, I never noticed. His fingers twitched, but he stopped himself from pulling the blanket over his head. He was not a child anymore. Hiding like that wouldn't stop the world from moving. You're not omnipresent. Blue's eye sockets faded. Eyelights faded to a paler shade. None of us are, apparently. Ink isn't either, but he still managed to do what I could not. He saw the real problems and worked to fix them. Meanwhile, I was so trapped in the usual patterns that I didn't bother to look outside. Dream did not know what to name the emotion that pierced through his apple soul. It would be an oversimplification to call it envy, though there was a twist of bitterness to the messy combination of gratefulness and frustration. I feel like I failed. I'm a failure of a guardian. You didn't fail, and it wasn't just you that got stuck in a loop. I got caught in it too. Blue checked his phone and put it back in his pocket. His fingers tapped an anxious beat on his leg, but Dream couldn't sense anything. Ink had the benefit of being new to everything, and brought in a fresh perspective. My brother almost killed him for it. Dream lost the battle and hid under the blanket like he used to hide under his cloak from thunderstorms. I know it was corrupted that harmed Ink, I know. But even if my brother was influenced by the corruption was not to blame for his every action. In the end, Underfell and so many other worlds are gone because of him. Not simply because he wanted to conquer, but because he genuinely thought he was maintaining balance. I feel like I could have tried harder. No, Blue interjected. We both know how hard you tried. Don't go down that route. His voice was stern, but kept its kind sense of optimism, even now. I'm trying not to. Dream couldn't keep the tremor out of his voice. He couldn't help but look back and wonder what he could have done differently to try to reach Nightmare across sooner, before things became so terrible. If he was honest with himself, his best chance was likely through Ink. His willingness to understand and see good on the other side was an attribute Dream had gradually lost due to years of battle, betrayal, and hardship. If Dream had found Ink first, Ink would have been in the Omega Timeline sooner, and if the Omega Timeline had Ink first, he'd be dead. The certainty of that thought chilled Dream's already cold core. Considering what Dr. Felgaster had done, Dream couldn't even say that Nightmare, his gang, or Error would have been the one to kill the Protector. Ink hadn't known he was the Protector at first, but others might have figured it out before he had the chance to discover it for himself. In that scenario, Ink would have been quietly taken to a lab before Dream or Corfrisk even had an inkling of his role. After all, neither of them noticed when Cross was taken, just like how neither of them knew what really happened in Extale. I pray that Ink doesn't look to me to see how to be a guardian, Blue, Dream confessed. I'm terrified I'm gonna fail him too, that I'll fail all of them. Again. That's not gonna happen, Blue said firmly. The Protector is here. Nightmare can be saved. Cross isn't gone. We know Ink exists now, and we can do everything in our power to help him. Dream's worries did not fade. I can't fight, and I'm not confident in my ability to assist him as a guardian anymore. I won't be much help. His shoulders slumped. Stars, Ink must think I'm pathetic. Blue snorted. Have you seen the way Ink looks at you? He thinks you're amazing. If Dream was being honest with himself, he was perfectly aware of that. The way Ink looked at him with such hope was as endearing as it was frightening, because that hope was horribly misplaced. It reminded Dream far too much of a young royal guard in training and a naive guardian child that had just been freed from stone, but was so hopeful and trusting that everything would be okay. Hope was such a fragile thing, and Dream didn't want to see Ink's hope die like so many others' hopes did, because Dream failed. Dream had endured the crushing weight of being the multiverse's protector for ages. He was a protector, not the protector, so some solutions were simply beyond his capabilities. Now that burden was on Ink's shoulders. Dream did not want it to be, but he feared he would not be able to help carry that weight anymore. How are we gonna do this? Dream did not mean to ask that question out loud, and certainly not with such despair. Blue gave him a worried look and took the question seriously. If you were referring to, well, everything, I guess we'll just have to do what we can. But it isn't just up to us. There is Ink to consider, and the gang, they want their boss back. I want my brother back, Dream thought bitterly, but that isn't going to happen in the way I imagined. With corruption or without, Nightmare is not who he was back in Dreamtale, and I am not who I was back then. It can never be like that again. Nightmare doesn't need me. Blue looked at the green blanket and nudged it away so that he would not pick at the threads. It feels strange to leave Ink with the gang, but I think that's what has to happen. It's what Ink wants, and maybe it's what we all need. We can't help anyone if we're at each other's throats instead. Too many people wish to use or hurt Ink in the Omega Timeline. Underswap would be kinder, but it'd still be another prison for him. He can't help if he's trapped. He leaned back and dragged a hand down his face, sighing. I'm happy we were wrong about the gang's treatment of him. Me too. It was strange to think that the gang's care for Ink was one beacon of light among the sea of darkness that was their multiverse. They had all heard Dusk comfort Ink. The fact that one of the infamous gang members had shown such vulnerability, where the Star Sages could hear spoke for itself. What are we gonna do after the exchange? Dream asked quietly. Where will we go? We will keep in contact with Ink and collaborate, Blue said instantly. I have the feeling that Ink will work with us regardless of the game's approval or disapproval. As for where we'll go, to Underswap, of course. His beaming smile did not make Dream feel any warmer, but the edges of his mouth twitched upward. Of course. I didn't need to ask. How silly of me. A soft rattle and a grunt from the kitchen announced Underswap Asgore's ungraceful return. Dream heard Color apologizing for the rough shortcut and got himself into a standing position. Blue did not try to make him lay back down. The stubbornness that got Dream through the confrontation with Felgaster in the council meeting reignited. I can get them. Will you help Asgore unpack the groceries? Blue nodded and left Dream to it. As he went, Dream sensed the faintest bit of encouragement and warmth from him, like the smallest glimmers of sunlight through cracking, dust-covered glass. No matter how long Dream lived in what he did, he would never deserve Blue. Underswap Asgore's arrival had apparently woken Ink. Dream could just hear Gino speaking to him through the thin trapdoor between the upper floor and the attic. He grabbed onto the ladder and hoisted himself up. Even that short climb left him out of breath. I'll be useless if the exchange becomes a fight. I'll be a burden just like in Danstell. Some guardian I am, but I already knew that. Dream was drawn out of his thoughts by Gino's low, worried tones. He couldn't hear what he was saying, but he did not want to linger and eavesdrop. He grasped the ladder rungs firmly and pulled himself up. Gino immediately stopped speaking when Dream appeared through the trapdoor, but he didn't mind. Gino had every reason to be wary. Ink was still on top of the shelf. His solemn expression faded away, and he brightened when Dream appeared. Hi, Dream. We heard Asgore come back with the supplies. Are they ready, or will we get in the way? Let's give them a moment to put the groceries away. Dream pulled himself up the last run to the attic and sat down with his legs hanging through the open trapdoor. Ink smoothly climbed down the shelf and plopped down next to him. His legs swung a little, causing his loose brown pants to swish over his bare feet. The clothes had been washed, but the left leg of the pants was torn and stained by black. It made the golden manacles seem even more vibrantly menacing by comparison. Dream should give Ink a change of clothes, but the only ones available were in Cross's room. He was also not sure that Ink would accept them. He seemed to want at least something familiar from home. Gino stayed on his crate, and Dream noticed that the snakes were curled around his hands again. He felt a twinge of jealousy, but dismissed it, knowing his misery was misplaced. I can't believe I fell asleep, Ink muttered. He smiled at Dream. I've rested, so I can do that checkup if you want. I'm fine, Dream declined on instinct. You're not. To his surprise, Ink did not hesitate to speak up. The nerves and fear he had displayed towards Dream in possession and Undertop had faded, releasing the stubborn will that always lurked beneath his mask. I've been performing passive scans. Sorry about that. The gang tends to hide injuries, so I had permission to do that back home. You're exhausted and struggling. Please let me see if there's something I can do to help you. It won't help, Dream said instantly. Gino gave him a disapproving look, which was ironic considering he had a slash across his chest, though Dream noticed that Gino's chest wound seemed a bit less severe and there wasn't a trickle of blood coming from his mouth anymore. Had Ink been able to partially heal him? Why only partially? Maybe that injury might be a codes-related magic thing that required codes-related stuff? Dream would ask Core about it, but they were avoiding everyone. He hoped they were okay. It was hypocritical of him to think it, but Core shouldn't isolate themselves. It could, Ink argued stubbornly. We won't know unless we try. At least Ink did not seem interested in isolating himself. In fact, he was so happy to see Dream that the look of hope returned to his face. Dream didn't understand why. Ink had been so nervous around him both times they previously ran into each other. Dream was certain that the gang had told him terrible stories about their enemies, especially Cross. Was Ink truly so calm around Dream, or was he acting that way to cover up his fear like he had in possession? Or could it be some kind of trauma bonding born of his hopeless situation? Dream might be able to handle misplaced hero worship, but it was clear that Ink's awe wasn't that. Stars, he could not handle Ink's hope and trust. I'm gonna fail him, just like I failed the rest. Dream's doubts crawled up his throat, choking him, and Ink's brows furrowed. Dream realized that he had been staring and averted his gaze. For a moment, just a moment, he imagined leaving Ink to face the multiverse without him. Jesus, okay, fuck. He instantly rejected the idea, disgusted with himself. Dream was close to useless now, but he had to keep fighting anyway, in whatever way he could manage. I can't let the multiverse break Ink too. I can't leave him to face it alone. I suppose a scan cannot hurt, Dream mentioned. Ink beamed at him and ushered Gino out of the room with the black snakes in several quiet reassurance that he would be fine and safe. Dream wanted to cry, because he didn't deserve that trust. Ink shut the trapdoor and gave the attic an unhappy once-over before he gestured for Dream to sit on the crate Gino had vacated. He did not try to ask Dream if he wanted to go somewhere else, like the makeshift med bay. That was good, because Dream did not want to go there either. After a brief, concise explanation of the scan and how it would feel, green magic curled around Ink's hands. Dream suspected that its visibility was for his benefit. He had never seen green magic like that. Then again, Ink was a protector along with a healer. Some oddities were to be expected, and considering that Ink was a stronger healer than all of the ones in the Mega Timeline combined, Dream supposed he had an advantage. He still did not let himself hope that Ink could assist him. The scan did not take long. Ink let his green magic fade. The hopeful, youthful look on his face was replaced by a much more serious expression. Dream wondered if Ink had looked like that behind Ark's owl mask when he confronted the Guardian about being hurt. Ugh. Okay. I'm going to guess that you already know about the state of your soul. Dream nodded. I don't know if I can repair that, but I can at least give you advice, maybe. Ink pressed his hand against his sternum. I know it's really hard, but try not to lose hope. Dream couldn't repress a flinch. Ink braced himself and forced out his next words. Look, I understand. It's hard to feel like things aren't going to get better. I understand the temptation to give up, and just let things happen. His already soft voice quieted even further, and Dream had to lean closer in order to hear him. I struggle with it myself. I've had to fight myself, so I didn't just let Dr. Felgaster take me. I could give up and let him do what he wanted just so it'd be over, and no one else would be hurt. Dream did not know what to say. The fear and panic he'd been fighting clawed at his soul, making it sting terribly, like it wanted to tear itself out of his ribcage. Ink's smile was gone, revealing a tired and anxious soul that had so much weight on his shoulders that he should have collapsed already. I can't lose hope and give up like that. I want to keep existing even if everything feels like too much. Not just for others, but for myself as well. So many things are bad, and it feels like it's your fault, but it's not. It's not your fault. He hesitated once more, then gripped Dream's hand. While Blue and Corfus' touches felt too hot, Ink's was perfectly neutral. For once, Dream didn't feel burning or cold. You've been fighting for much longer than I have. You've done so much for so many people, even if you don't see it. But you need to take care of yourself before you can keep taking care of others, including me. Ink's fingers squeezed Dream's. You're more than just a guardian. You're a person. You're allowed to take time for yourself. And live. The backs of Dream's eye sockets felt hot, but he did not let his tears fall. Everyone needs me to be strong. Ink's eyelids flashed green. Huh?
I'm sorry, nothing. Sorry, you said everything and my brain went, everything, everyone makes mistakes. You said everyone. I'll shut up.
Okay. Well, took me out of it there. Ink's eyelights flashed green and the socket seemed to darken in contrast. Did I skip something? No, I didn't. Okay. I don't. I'm not saying to leave it to me or anything like that, but you need to let yourself take breaks. Trust me, pushing yourself like this will only hurt you more. You need to find a balance between duty and living. I don't think I can, Dream admitted. Then I will help you. Ink's intense stare did not falter, but the green in his eyelights faded slightly. I've always been better at helping others. Dream wanted to argue and protest that Ink should not waste his time. He wanted to beg Ink not to waste his hope and trust on someone like Dream, who had been failing this multiverse for centuries. He reconsidered that thought, and was left in the awkward position as he understood that Ink was right about his views of his own self-worth. It left Dream feeling utterly confounded for what felt like the 1000th time since Ink arrived. At least think about it? Ink asked. Dream couldn't say it. Ink wasn't disappointed. He just looked determined. I'm not giving up on you, so you're not allowed to give up on yourself. Dream couldn't understand why. He avoided Ink's gaze and tried not to feel like a coward. Let's get back to the others. Ink made no attempts to press the issue as they headed downstairs together. The others were gathered in the kitchen with the exception of Edge. The groceries had been neatly sorted. Dream was relieved and melancholic to see that with the exception of the ice cream, all the supplies was for healing food, or were good for traveling. It made sense. After they left, they would not be back in this house. Good. Ink went straight to the ingredients for healing foods and sorted them further. As he did, he repeatedly asked them if it was all right for him to use up supplies. It took an appalling long time for Dream to put together that he was genuinely worried they wouldn't have enough resources. That brought up some uncomfortable implications about the gang's current situation. Current. Considering that Dream had spent much of his time after Cross left, he stopped staying in the Mega Timeline on the run, he should have realized the gang would have resource problems sooner, especially since Nightmare was absent and Horrortail's core had gone out. Color left to continue his watch, and Edge declined the offer to join them. The ice cream was placed in the freezer for after they were done. Dream didn't really cook things. He never had the time and relied on what he could find for the most part. Whenever he did sit down for a meal, Blue was the one who made it. Dream tended to be too exhausted to help or worried about getting in the way. There was a phrase about too many cooks in the kitchen, yet their group was perfectly functional. Ink and Blue matched each other's enthusiasm and spread it to the others. Ink was elated to teach Dream and Gino how to prepare several dishes, including cinnamon buns and cinnamon butterscotch pie. He praised their work, earnestly standing right beside them or patiently guiding their hands as they put the ingredients together. Dream's concerns about ruining the food gradually faded. It was difficult to feel inadequate, with Blue and Ink smiling his way. Edge came back in to check on them, drawn in by the smells, and was unceremoniously roped into a conversation where he explained the different avenues used for agricultural development in the Omega Timeline. Ink hung onto his every word with an excitement that Dream envied. He asked questions and was even more delighted when Edge or one of the others answered them. In turn, Edge seemed pleased to have his attention. Despite the peace within Dream's kitchen, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Every so often, Ink would look up further than the height of the stanzas around him and falter. He kept going without comment, but Dream noticed how he'd hesitate, as if expecting someone else to be there. There was also a minor incident where Ink knocked a bowl of batter off the counter with his elbow. Gino caught the bowl before it could shatter on the floor, but some of the liquid spilled. Although Ink looked concerned, he didn't recoil in fear or fall over himself apologizing. He helped clean up the mess with steady hands. He cooks with horror. Dream remembered an attack where an alternate universe had burned some of their food stock to keep Nightmare's game from getting it. Horror's anger and despair had taken Dream out of the fight, as he'd literally torn through several guards and monsters in his violent rampage. The Star Sands only saw the murderous side of the gang members on the battlefield, yet Dream could clearly picture Horror encouraging Ink much like Ink now encouraged him and Gino. He could see Horror reacting calmly to spill food, and reassuring Ink that it was okay, with a gentle patience that only a few knew he possessed. It was such a relief, just like Dusk's concern was. The gang could be cruel, but they were also kind. Dream's thoughts turned to Nightmare and his guilt resurfaced. Before he could spiral, Ink scooted in right beside him as he grabbed a whisk and tapped Dream's arm as he retreated. Dream stared at that spot, puzzled. Ink noticed. Is there something wrong? You're a very tactical person, Dream noted. Ink squinted like he was not quite sure that he remembered what that meant. Is that bad? Not at all, Dream said hastily. I'm just surprised, considering who you live with. Ink's confusion lingered. So fucking rude? Oh my god. What does... Oh! There were a few accidents, but nothing severe. The gang and I, we got used to each other, I guess. I was alone for most of my existence, so the gang raised me, and figured out that I was kind of touch-deprived. In hindsight, they had a bit of a freak out when they realized it, so they started to put a hand on my shoulder, pat my skull, hug me, little things like that. And they started doing it for each other too. He shrugged. Harmless touch became a thing back home. The two Star Sands looked at each other in a way just as quickly. Dream wondered what Blue was thinking and feeling now that he couldn't sense his friend's emotions. Their HP restoring goods finished baking not long after. Ink nearly gave Blue a soul attack when he appeared to grab the metal straight out of the oven, only for Ink to show his magic shielded hand and explain that he couldn't find the oven mitts. The oven mitts that Dream located were a bit threadbare, so he wouldn't trust them to protect anyone from the heat. Regardless, Ink sheepishly apologized for frightening them. The magic food was divided up between Ink, Dream, Blue, and Gino, with the majority going to Ink and Dream. It was quickly discovered that Ink's magic-imbued food healed much more than Blue's did. Makes sense. I am a healer. There was no pride in that statement, merely a clinical, analytical lit, like Ink was already considering how that may affect the food's usability. He carefully marked and set each container in his satchel to replace his stock. Once that was done, Dream finally got the promised ice cream out of the freezer. He pulled out the requested flavors and froze when he spotted a triple chocolate one sitting with 4 others, including a second banana one. He hadn't heard Ink ask Asgore to get some for the rest of the gang. Dream gently closed the freezer with the ice creams in hand. Banana was his, blue raspberry for Blue, strawberry, blue raspberry, and lime mix for Ink, butterscotch for Asgore, sour cherry for Edge, rainbow swirl for Color, and ketchup for Gino. Ew! And the last flavor sounded a bit iffy to Dream, but Gino was excited. Thank you, G. Thank you, fucking Dream. Oh my gosh. Because what? For a moment, they simply enjoyed their ice cream and conversed softly about small, unimportant things. For the moment, they were all safe enough to relax. For the moment, the peace stayed. For the moment, Dream let himself breathe and enjoy the emotional silence. The ice creams for Core, Frisk, and Judge stayed in the freezer alongside the gains. I wonder what this next chapter means.
Yay! Claps my hands joyously.
Yay!
Claps my hands joyously.
I did it.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Claps my hands. Teacher, can I read next?
Oh my god. Yes, you can.
I was that kid, the one that always wanted to read. For some reason, I like to read. I was a big reader as a kid, surprisingly. When it interested me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, flips my hair. It's time for chapter 30. I'm on 35 for some reason. Hold on, let me move on to 36. 36. Impending Doom. Lovely name.
Yeah, I wonder why that chapter was so insistent that it was, you know.
Yeah, that's so, like, I feel like we're being, like, I'm sure it's not that bad. Anyway, Judge returned to Dream's old house. Hold on, I have to fix something. There we go. Can you hear me now? Excellent.
Yeah.
Judge returned to Dream's old... I was so far away from my mic. Judge returned to Dream's old house as Ink. As Ink, Dream, Gino, Blue, and Swap Asgore were washing the last set of dishes they had used. Before Ink could scan and identify the blue-cloaked river person that walked through the door with her, they lowered their hood to reveal Top's face. Core Frisk got us through, Judge explained briefly. They'll know someone's here, but they won't know it's Top. Ink looked at the corner to see Core Frisk was already here, there, everywhere. They drew no attention to themselves as they sat on the floor and pulled their knees up to their chest, hugging them. Blue sat beside them on the floor and tentatively put a hand on their shoulder. He seemed relieved when they didn't vanish, especially since they did not greet anyone or look up. Ink did not need to ask if Core Frisk had any luck in locating Aster. Top removed his cloak and placed it on a coat rack near the doorway, revealing his usual attire along with a large bag. Only his famous top hat was missing. Ink wondered if it was in the bag with whatever tools Top had brought. He was privately glad that Top wasn't wearing a lab coat like Dr. Felgaster did, and ex-Gaster likely did as well. Ink pushed any thoughts about Gasters, and what one did to Cross, away and waved shyly. Hi, Top. I got into a bit more trouble. I can see that. Ink? Top glanced questioningly between him and Judge, as though he was not sure he was using the correct name. At Ink's confirming nod, Top appeared relieved and followed Ink into the sitting room. Ink sat on the couch and pulled his torn pant leg up, revealing the golden cuff that was partially fused with the bones of his lower leg. An agonized expression flashed across Top's face before he gained control of himself. I'm having a hard time pronouncing. I am deeply sorry that my code's nullifying invention has been used against you. We made these devices to stall the likes of Error, but we doubted we would be able to make anything that could truly contain him. I realized they were meant for more than that and left before I could be removed. Ink couldn't stop a flinch. Neither could Core Frisk. Top considered them with a quiet, resigned expression. Judge informed me of the tragedy in the skyscraper. My friend Aster of Zephyrtail? Is that how you say that? I've never had to say that out loud, I think.
Zephyrtail.
Zephyrtail. Okay. of Zephril was the target, Ink blurted. But they said it was a core bomb. Core-related experiments tend not to kill gasters, so he might be trapped in the void like you were. Can you find him? He did his best not to show his desperation, but was certain it was obvious in his voice. Top's expression shifted, not into a look of pity, but one of consideration. It gave Ink hope. I have my ways of checking. Ink beamed at him and tried not to look at Core Frisk too closely. He suspected they would flee if he turned his attention towards them and tried to explain that he knew they had tried their best and that it wasn't their fault. Thank you. Top nodded and gestured at the golden cuff. May I? I will only inspect it for now. Ink nodded to give permission and watched closely as Top examined the cuff. As he worked, color returned with the last person they requested, and Ink's smile faltered before it faded completely. Dr. Toriel did not take offense as Ink ended up staring at her with huge eye sockets. Corfrisk gave the doctor a confused look that quickly morphed into one of mute terror as they realized why she was here. Seeing Corfrisk's distress muffled Ink's own, and he slipped into a sense of professional calm for their sake. Hello, Doctor. Thank you for coming. Of course. Dr. Toriel appeared unfazed by these circumstances, but Ink suspected she too was putting her emotions aside. You are still my patient. This is not an ideal site, but I will provide whatever assistance I can. I didn't know you were coming to help, Blue commented. He's southern now.
Jiho!
Get the manacle or... He looked at the I don't think I've had a specific voice for him either. A misshapen golden cuff and shivered slightly. Out of Ink's leg? He hadn't fully put it together. Gino had tensed and Dream looked nauseous, likely meaning they had. It's possible, Dr. Toriel said delicately. However, I'm present in the case there is an accident. Ink was much more blunt. She's here to help me if the explosive goes off. Blue's eyelights turned white and Corfrisk hid their face in their hands. Ink watched Dream go over to them with the intent of comforting them. Both looked back to Top and Dr. Toriel. All I need is for the tracker and code nullifier to be deactivated. I can worry about the removal later, but I need to be able to use codes and get back to the gang. Top was engrossed in whatever he was scanning on the cuff, but to respond to Dr. Toriel... Wait, I'll restart that. Top was engrossed in whatever he was scanning on the cuff to respond to Dr. Toriel. But Dr. Toriel looked to Dream. Okay, I can't read. I apologize, but it would be best for there to be no distractions. Judge nodded slightly while the three who were some of the gang's most notable enemies all sought out Ink for clarification, and perhaps permission. Ink couldn't give it to them. Dream, Blue, and Corfrisk already witnessed and experienced so many terrible things he didn't want to possibly add to their nightmares. I don't want you to see if something happens, Ink said gently. Blue was unnerved. Dream and Judge resigned, and poor Corfrisk frightened. A stubborn glint entered Gino's gaze, and his hands twitched towards his scarf. Gino can stay, Ink continued before he really thought about it. He almost regretted it because he didn't want to add to his nightmares either, but then Gino put his hand on his shoulder, giving it a comforting squeeze. Very well, Dr. Toriel agreed. Is there some place more suitable? Corfrisk made a soft, distressed sound, and an idea struck in Ink, and he stood up, letting cyan and gold slither down his arms into his hands. Corfrisk looked up at him in confusion from their place on the floor, and Ink leaned over slightly, offering the snakes. Can you watch them for me? Corfrisk's empty eyes filled with tears, and they took the snakes. Cyan and Gold immediately split their tails, curling them around Cor's fingers, and a ghost of a smile appeared on their face. Can you imagine how terrible it would be if they were actually afraid of snakes?
They're just like,
can you think about that? Like, you're trying to make somebody feel better. Like, here, hold my pet snakes, and they just start screaming and crying and disappear from the room.
Yeah, I don't think people, like, the author really remembered that, like, people don't tend to really like snakes because everyone just tends to fuck with being snakes with no problems whatsoever. Is no one afraid of the snakes? No one is, like, a little bit unsettled?
I'm not gonna lie, I am on that like side of like I forget people don't like snakes because I have a snake And I'm like, yeah, guys, my snake. And they look at me like I'm insane and like, why would I have this monster of a creature in my room with me? And it's gonna kill me in my sleep, apparently to them. I'm like, no, it's just a little guy. It's literally just a little guy. Anyway, that would just be funny though. Where was I? Blue stayed with Core Frisk and Underswap Asgore as Dream led Ink, Gino, Top, and Dr. Toriel to a small room that had been converted into a makeshift medbay. It had been stocked up by Underswap Asgore, with Dr. Toriel and Top both bringing the rest of the supplies they may need. Looking at the space, Ink suspected it actually had been an at-home medbay when Dream and Cross lived together. He could imagine Dream or Cross sitting on the edge of the plain white adjustable bed, while the other hurried around them and gathered supplies for first aid. Ink sat there now with his legs stretched out in front of him, to allow Top to continue his inspection. He insistently continued to think of the white bed as a bed and not an He insistently continued to think of the white bed as a bed and not an examination table. Dr. Toriel's doctor coat made it more difficult, while Gino's reassuring presence eased his fears slightly. Top took one last look at the scanner he was holding and sighed heavily. I may be able to deactivate the code nullifier, however, if I try to unlock the manacle, it will explode. The lock is linked to someone's unique signature, magic signature. Fel Alphys, Gino guessed bitterly. Most likely. Top agreed. He tapped something on his tablet. He tapped something on the tablet he held, and Ink repressed a shiver as he remembered Fel Alphys' warning. Warning. I have news that could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. The cuff has already been altered only to activate when it's manually triggered. They're definitely still watching us, Ink guests. Jesus, egad. Ink guessed, unsurprised. Is the tracker still active? Yes. Ink's breathing was steady. Prioritize the code's nullifier. I doubt it'll be able to deactivate anything else in the cuff, but I can access codes. But if I can access codes, there's a chance. He looked back to Dr. Toriel, who held his gaze with a reassuring one of her own. If the explosives go off and I am unshielded, my estimate is that it will take halfway up to my femur. I should be able to shield the rest of my body, but even with that protection, I could still lose up to my knee. We could be facing a traumatic transtibial amputation rather than a transfemoral amputation then. How will your green magic react to such an injury? Dr. Toriel asked clinically. Ink wondered if she knew how glad he was she wasn't distracting him with flimsy reassurances that nothing would happen. He considered her question carefully, pulling on his previous experiences with healing his own injuries. It might not react at all if I go into shock. I sometimes don't register that I'm the one that's been injured, so I seek out others to heal. Dr. Toriel took his admission in stride and began detailing the procedure for dealing with a sudden traumatic below-knee amputation. Ink listened closely to make sure he was remembering it right from his own research, just in case. Ink appreciated that she was being honest with him instead of trying to give false promises. Yawning. In turn, Top explained how he was going to attempt to deactivate the cuff. Ink had more trouble following that scientific explanation, but Gino seemed to understand. Ink wished Aster was here. He clung to that hope that he would be soon. Not here in the Omega timeline, but out of the void or wherever he was trapped. As Top and Dr. Toriel put on specialized lab coats designed to resist shrapnel and fire damage, Ink used his black magic to shield his upper leg, unbound leg, and ribcage as much as possible, without it getting in their way. Even with that protection, he would still lose everything below the knee if the explosive went off. He had no choice but to think about it as Top pulled out tools and laid them on the counter beside the bed. Top laid some type of screwdriver-like tool on the counter and did not look at Ink. It's perfectly fine if you say no, but would you be okay with your leg being restrained to prevent movement? Ink violently shook his head. Top did not try to argue with him and accepted that, much to his relief. Gino, I said Gino and Ink's name at the same time. Gino saw Ink's shaking hands and pulled his chair up to his left side, holding on to his left one. Ink tried to pull his hand away, gesturing for him to stay back. You could be hit. I'm not moving, Gino said tersely. Ink glared at him and used his black magic to shield Gino as well. He heard Dr. Toriel and Top conversing softly and found himself clinging to Gino's hand like his grip was the only thing keeping him from falling into the void. I want my brothers, Ink confessed in a whisper. Gino's intense glare softened and he brushed a hand over Ink's skull. You'll get back to them within the day. I know.
He's giving birth.
I thought you said he was infertile.
He managed to figure it out.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. I have your back.
Hold my hand.
Take my hand. Take my hand, Peter. Take my hand. Oh, that's a horrible scene in that movie. Oh, where was I? Ink hoped he wasn't lying through his teeth. A tense silence fell over the room as Top took out a small tablet-like device and inserted the interface connector into the small, nearly unnoticeable slot near the light. The cuff continued to blink benignly and did not appear to react. Top began inputting commands into the tablet. Ink couldn't see the screen from where he lay, but he wondered if it was similar to the codes he could see. He kept himself and Gino shielded, holding his hand tightly. The silence was agonizing, but Ink dare not break it, afraid of distracting Top or himself and accidentally moving his leg. His free hand gripped the collar of his scarf and he wished he had taken it off. He didn't want it to be ruined if... The light turned red and the codes nullifier cuff The light turned red and the codes nullifier cuff beeped rapidly. Ink's breathing quickened, but he forced himself to remain still as Top calmly, but quickly, typed commands into the device he held. His expression did not change, but his grip was tense. Ink was even tenser as he clung to Gino. He would not be surprised if Gino had lost the feeling in his fingers. Ink's magic roiled in his bones as if it was begging him to flee. He could not vanish without taking the cuff with him, and if he did disappear, he'd be left to deal with any injuries on his own. Considering the last time he panicked and fled due to his wounds, it would not end well for him. Dr. Toriel stayed out of Top's way and put a hand atop Ink's skull, briefly distracting him. Her gaze was solemn, but she remained calm as she held his gaze. If the worst happened, he knew she'd do everything she could to help. He wished he could tell her how grateful he was that she and Gino, whose hand must be bruised by now, were there, but his throat was too tight for him to speak. Top did not panic, swear, or mutter as beads of sweat appeared on his skull. He simply kept working as the cuff beeped and flashed, his expression set into a hard, fierce look. God. I'm scared. Ink did not know what he was trying to do, but it was clear that he was not giving up. He could imagine a similar look on Aster's face if he was here. Aster had been blown up by a core bomb. Ink hoped that he wasn't too badly hurt in the void. Man, why do we keep reminding us that Aster just exploded?
Just so we all know.
Yeah, in case
in
you
the
weren't
void.
upset or stressed. In case you weren't like upset or stressed already by the situation. Remember Aster?
He's
Yeah, that
dead.
guy's almost dead. We're never seeing him again, by the way. Top's hard expression cleared and he bared his teeth in a sharp grin of victory. Thank God. The code's nullifier gave one final beep and the lights turned off. Just like Top warned, the cuff didn't unlock, but it did not blow up either. Either? I don't know, one of them. Ink felt a rush of energy and relief as the codes returned to him, curling around him warmly as they were greeting an old friend. His breathing slowed and he uncurled his fingers, releasing Gino. It was only then that he realized that Gino was holding onto his hand just as desperately. Top lowered the tablet slightly but did not look away from it. The code nullifier is off, as is the tracker. It's too risky to try to tamper with the explosive or the cuff itself in order to remove it. The cuff is made from a material that requires lasers to cut through it. I'm fighting my lisp so bad right now. Oh my god. Ink already suspected as much, but couldn't deny his disappointment. it's partially fused to my leg, so it wouldn't slip off even if it was cut. He took one look at the codes of the cuff and instantly knew that if he tried to do anything with them, he'd lose a leg. The portions he identified as Fel Alfie's personal magical signature were interwoven throughout. He stayed far away from it and the cuff as a whole, afraid of triggering anything with a closer inspection. At least I have my coding abilities back. Ink tried to thank Top and Dr. Toriel, but ended up making a small whimpering sound instead. Gino did not hesitate to pull him into a hug as Dr. Toriel put her hand on his upper back. Thank you. Ink forced his voice to work, though it came out wobbly and soft. Gino, I need to stabilize your codes. Gino released a sharp puff of air and almost sounded like a breathy Incrediblest laugh. Give yourself a second, would you? Ink laid his head against Gino's shoulder and shivered. He did not realize how cold he felt until he started trembling. He bent his legs at the knees, pulling the left one close to his chest, and glared bitterly at the golden manacle on his right. The light was off, but the explosive was still a threat. As long as it did not detect his location, he should be safe to leave. Right? Ink's fingers passed over the partially melted portion of the cuff, which was almost fused with his leg. Can you make sure there aren't any other surprises? Not without performing a full scan with several machines, Dr. Toriel mentioned as Top nodded along. Ink grimaced. I still can't go to the hospital, and no offense, but I think I'd freak out in a lab. Neither took offense. Ink fiddled with his scarf and avoided looking at anyone. I would like to discuss something with you, Dr. Toriel, if you have the time. That is, I've already kept you away from the hospital. I have time, Dr. Toriel interjected patiently. I shall take my leave, then. Top gathered up his supplies and paused a moment before he sat on the edge of the bed by Ink. I will try to locate Aster. I was in the void myself once, so I have the means of searching it for other Gasters. Ink managed to muster up a grateful smile for him. Thank you, Top, for everything. Sorry, somebody messaged me something funny. Top's gaze softened.
Lock in.
Tops. I'm sorry. It's on like the corner of my computer, so it just like pop. Okay. Let me turn off my notification.
How Aki to stop messaging you, bro.
Shush! 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 How do you know it was fucking Aki, bro? Leave me alone. I have more friends than that. I have others. They just have really good timing. We should put them in therapy. I agree. Anyway, he headed out, holding the door open for a reluctant Gino. Ink guessed he was going to tell the others the good and less good news. He waited until the door clicked shut before his gaze drifted back to his leg. I have a few questions, if you don't mind. Go ahead, Dr. Toriel encouraged. Ink faltered, torn between easing into the conversation and not wasting her time. In the end, it was his nerves that won out, and he ended up blurting it instead. If the explosive can't be deactivated, should I have my leg amputated in order to remove the cuff? Dr. Toriel did not give an immediate denial. She sat in the spot that Top had just left, as calm and professional as she had always been. Yet even with that medical professionalism, she remained kind and open. Strangely enough, that quiet warmth reminded Ink of her Horatel counterpart. He hoped Toriel was still okay. Due to the damage that was done to your leg and the manacle, the cuff's pieces will need to be surgically removed. Dr. Toriel confirmed that Ink was what Ink already suspected. However, I cannot say how dangerous it would be for you and the surgeons until we know what kind of material was used for the explosives. I don't know what's in there, and even if I did, I don't know how unstable the explosive matter is. What if an attack hits it, or I land on it wrong? I could end up on a battlefield, and Ink squeezed his eye socket shut. If I have to choose between losing part of my leg and possibly getting shrapnel sprayed up into my rib cage, I think I can do it. Dr. Toriel struggled a moment, took a breath. An on-site amputation overseen by doctors would be the preferable scenario, same difference. However, it is possible to perform an emergency amputation with a sharp magic attack. I can go over the procedure with you again. Ink did not think he had any sharp magic attacks, but the gang certainly did. He tried to imagine asking them to do that, and he wanted to cry. They'd blame themselves forever, even if it did end up saving Ink from a worse injury or even death. He would have seriously considered other options in a safer environment before the worst case scenario could occur. Felt Alphys would never remove the cuff herself. Me when I misgender people. It was depressing to admit it, but Ink suspected her hatred of Nightmare's gang was too strong. She might randomly decide to set the explosive off just to see Ink suffer. Even worse, she might set it off to make the gang hurt like they had made her hurt. Dr. Toriel went over the procedure with Ink a few more times, but... Oh my god. I'm being attacked by yawning. Dr. Toriel went over the procedure with Ink a few more times to hopefully make it a memory item that he could get through by instinct alone. She left several supplies for his satchel with him before giving him a brief hug and departing. Those supplies included a list of doctors and scientists from several alternative universes that specialized in prosthetics, along with other assistive devices. I can say words. Ink took a moment to gather himself and sought out Gino. He felt himself in the hall. He met him in the hall with the snakes curled in his scarf. Ink immediately offered his hand to the black-eyed Gold, who happily slithered over to him. Ink looked at Gino and put his hand over his mouth, making a shushing motion. He gestured for Gino to follow him to the attic. Once there, he silently took out the vial of positivity magic and focused on it. Like Nightmare's magic, Dream's was a mess of codes. Unlike Nightmare's, Dream was not overtly corrupted. Overtly. Fragments of wrongness prodded at Ink's senses, and he calmly picked them apart, only freezing briefly as he worried that the explosive would react. That proved to be nothing more than paranoia, as the cuff remained inert. I mean, I'm sure it's alert, because it's about to explode as soon as he tries to move it, but, you know. Slowly, the dull yellow magic became a shining golden hue. Ink wished that that helping Dream would be as simple as... Ink wished that helping Dream would be as simple, but knew that although he may be able to temporarily assist Dream with healing magic, the balance between negativity and positivity needed to be less tipped to Nightmare's side in order for it to really help Dream. The purified positivity magic glowed vibrantly as Ink offered the vial to Gold. The snake poked their head curiously into the bottle before, like their sibling, they opened their mouth. Positivity magic flowed to Gold, transforming into sharp needle-like fangs. Black eyes shifted into the vibrant golden color of the magic, and Gold retreated, leaving some left in the vial. Ink recapped it, putting it away with the empty moon-topped vial. It would be transferred to a syringe later. He looked to Gino, who stared back with wide eye sockets. They darted to the snake sitting comfortably in his red scarf. Does Cyan have... Ink nodded, then spoke quietly. I can stabilize your codes now. I might see some things when I do. Gino absently petted Cyan's head with a pensive expression. That's okay. You have my permission to do whatever you need to do. He gave Ink a significant look. Ink recalled his lessons with Prism and brought up Gino's data. Data? It was similar to a check, but much more detailed, with a running line of code linked to his determination. Although Gino seemed to look in the direction of the black box and his brow furrowed slightly, it was clear that he could not see what Ink was seeing and was merely following his line of sight. Maybe his time in the save screen left him with a sense of something being there, or maybe it was because he was a sans that could have become air. It was easy to repair Gino's HP so it no longer deteriorated, using a mix of green magic and codes to heal the slash across his chest. His eye socket remained melted, but Ink was not too disappointed. He was just glad that Gino would not melt further until he dusted. Ink became a lot more hesitant as he accessed Gino's underlying data. Not because it was difficult, but because it was easy, like he was flipping through the pages on a tablet. He added shields as he went to prevent others from being able to access it just as easily, seeking out the passcode ID he required. File name, Gino. Passcode ID, numbers, business. Ink did not look too closely at the details of the file. To his relief and alarm, he had already spotted what he needed. I need to say this word now. Steganographic file. Error. Numbers. Destroyer not found. True. General location. Anti-void. Multiple. A lot of different codes. About error and not being error. Fatal error. Interesting. The codes were inactive placeholders, locked and able to be viewed but not altered. It was like somebody copied some of error's codes, brought them over, realized they were still there, and locked them rather than delete them. Ink made sure they were secure and let the codes fade away. He blinked rapidly, left slightly dazed, and then looked hopefully at Gino. How do you feel? Gino stared at his chest, which no longer leaked blood, and grinned at Ink. Better. Thanks, Ink. Ink beamed at him. Great. I'm going to hunt Dream down now. He looked down at Gold, who curled contentedly in his scarf. No biting Dream. I know he's not doing great, but we need the doses for an emergency, okay? Gold hid in the collar of his scarf. Cyan stretched out from Gino's and slithered down Ink's hood to join his sibling. To Ink's surprise, they quickly separated and returned to their two-dimensional forms, slithering through the fabric of his scarf to settle at the individual ends. Ink considered the deceptively normal-looking designs and realized what they were doing. He let out a soft, exasperated laugh. Please don't attack anyone that tries to grab my scarf, he told the snakes. You can scare them, but no biting. Gold raised their head and playfully flicked their tongue in his direction before they settled into the fabric again. Cyan pretended not to hear him. I knew those two were smart little pals, Gino teased. His amused expression faded into a solemn look. How are you feeling? Ink fiddled with the collar of his hooded scarf and adopted a drawl expression. Helping others is my coping mechanism. If I do nothing but worry about what might happen, my soul will probably shatter on its own from the stress. That'd be unfortunate. Very unfortunate, Gino agreed in an equally dry tone. Ink appreciated that he took his dark humor in stride. He really did not want to keep thinking about the active explosive and what it could do to him. Want to help me corner Dream? Dream stood a little chance against Ink and Gino, and Blue once he realized why the healer was pestering his friend. Even Corfrisk played their part and clung to Dream to stop him from trying to sneak away with an excuse. The Guardian of Positivity eventually relented and allowed Ink to give him another checkup like he promised. As Ink suspected, there was still little that he could do other than slightly boost Dream's vitals and prevent him from constantly being on the verge of passing out. He feared he may need to use the vial or gold sooner than he hoped. He almost considered having the vial with Blue just in case, but his worry that he needs green magic to complement the emotion adrenaline stayed his hand. Ink lasted another hour before he made an excuse and went to rest in the attic. Someone, likely Blue, had cleared off the top shelf he had crawled onto earlier and left a soft blanket and pillow for him. Ink climbed the shelf and tucked himself into the corner as he pulled his pants leg back up. The golden clef glinted in the light, its own small bulb deactivated. Surrounding it were the binary codes of countless worlds, all marked on Ink's leg. Some were clearly visible, others were charred. In fact, more were charred than there had been before the cuff was placed there. Silently, Ink opened his satchel. His fingers briefly brushed the slim circlet that lay hidden among the fabric before he took out the small notebook he had not used for what felt like years. Using the written form of primeval windings, Ink documented every single code. Hold on, I'm taking a sip of water. Ugh, water is delicious. Anyway. It was a struggle for Red to keep his eye sockets open. He was used to being tired, but there was something about his current bone-deep exhaustion that had left him jolting back to alertness and panic whenever he was about to fall asleep. He almost wished that the pain in his back and shoulders would keep him alert, even if it wouldn't matter. It wasn't like he could dodge if one of the gangs stormed in. Stormed in again. Red leaned his back against the cold wall behind him. With sleep eluding him, there wasn't much to do except count the stones and think while he waited for something to happen. At first, he had tried to listen to the gang as they talked across in his cell, but they either realized he could and moved him further away, or spoke too softly. When Red was first brought in, he expected the worst kinds of torture. Dust put a stop to that before it could begin. Red didn't trust the unexpected show of mercy. Their mercy won't last. It never does. He heard the sound of footsteps and his soul beat quickened, as it always did, because this could be it. What it referred to, Red couldn't say, but definitely couldn't be good. He just wanted to go home. The cell door opened and Horror stepped through with his tray. He shut the door behind him, briefly exposing his back, and Red saw he was not carrying a pre-made magic axe. Not that he needed one. Horror could tear him apart in his bare hands alone. He creeped Red out as much as the others, but was not nearly as bad as Killer or Dust. Even Cross had his breakdowns going on. Then there was Ink. But Ink was an anomaly. Red recalled his father's interest in anomalies, and repressed a wince. He did not want Horror to think he was intimidated. Horror turned his back to him and set the food tray in front of Red. Here's food. The statement was purposely vague. He didn't mention a time to avoid letting Red know how long he'd been in Hortail's dungeon. The lights were brighter now, but that didn't give much of an indicator for how much time he had passed. It could be hours. It could be days. Considering that this was not the first time Horror had fed him, the days estimate might be right. Red had no way of knowing. Time was always screwy, so why bother to keep track? The meal was a simple hamburger and fries. That could mean it was lunch or dinner time. Or it could mean that it was time for breakfast, but Horror was screwing with him. A part of Red wanted to throw the tray away as soon as he was able, but he knew better than to refuse food from Horror. It sounds like I'm saying horror every single time. That word is so similar. Horror and horror. I say it's the same thing. Oh my god. He was he was tired and bitter, not a monster with a death wish. Horror released Red's hand from the manacles and removed the gag. His feet stayed bound and chained to the wall. Red did not try to pick a fight. He had no delusions about his chances of grappling with Horror and winning. Horror watched him intently. If all goes well, you'll be back home tomorrow. Red could read behind the lines. He could keep quiet and eat his meal. Unfortunately, he always had a mouth on him, especially when he was stressed. And if it doesn't go well? Horror stared at him with those unsettling mismatched eyelids. You'll go home, but we'll find the Omega timeline to get our brother back. I thought Papyrus was your brother, Red muttered. He tensed, regretting the snide comment immediately because he wasn't really sure if Horror had killed his brother or not. When no attacks came, he risked a look upward and his soul twisted. Red expected malice from Horror, not exhaustion that reflected his own. I have more than one now. Maybe Red did have a death wish because he kept running his mouth. How can you even work with them? They killed their papyri. Horror considered him. Red tried to understand why his expression made him so uneasy, but soon realized it was a lack of anger. Where was the frothing rage and instant insanity? Oh my god, I'm blind. Insanity he had saw during so many attacks on the alternate universes. I'm not sure what happened to Ink's paps, but I know he didn't. But yes, Killer, Dust, and Cross did. I've always known that. I wouldn't say I ever hated Killer and Dust for it. I mistrusted them at first, yes, but then I got to know them, and I remembered something. Horror reached up and cupped a hand over his eye socket, hiding his red eyelight from view. Desperation is a terrible thing. Red did not expect Horror to answer like that. Not at all. It wasn't like he could sit down and have a chat with the gang members, but they didn't seem like the types to be open about stuff like that. Maybe Red had fallen asleep. Or maybe he was still unconscious from getting knocked on the head, and was coma dreaming. That could be a more believable explanation for this conversation than it actually happening. He noticed the red band on Horror's wrist and remembered seeing a similar looking ones on Dust and Killer as well. The incredulity of the situation, I still said that wrong, overwhelmed Red, and he blurted out his first thought. You have friendship bracelets? Horror stared at him, and kept on staring. He made a noise low in his throat. It was not a growl, like Red anticipated, but a deep, laugh. Like this comment was the funniest thing he'd heard in ages. In fact, Horror laughed so hard that he had to lean against the wall for support to support himself, nearly doubling over as he wheezed. Oh my god. Horror fell shit. Oh my god. Anyway, Horror's
Shut
laughing.
the fuck up.
Please! You can have your drink. I can't have my thing. I can't have my horror fell. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Grr.
Anyway,
Horror simply laughed. Horror braced for when that laughter would turn to Horror braced for when that laughter would turn to violence, but it didn't. Horror simply laughed, his face clear of malice and the edges of his eye sockets crinkled with mirth.
You read that
Sometimes
twice
Red
and still
stopped
said the
that.
wrong name.
Did I say that wrong?
It was supposed to be
What-
red.
wait.
You said horror twice. Horror
Why
braced
didn't you
for
tell
when
me
that laugh.
anything?
Well, I thought you would get it the second time, but then you read it wrong.
I
again the
didn't.
second
I did
time.
not, in fact, get it the second time.
That's why you
Hmm,
restarted.
Yeah, Horror is actually schizophrenic and speaks in, like, the third person.
That's offensive.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just really into dark humor. My bad. Anyway.
Shut up.
Red braced for when that laughter would turn to violence, but it didn't. Horror simply laughed, his face clear of malice, and the edges of his eye sockets crinkled with mirth. Sometimes Red forgot that Horror had once been a regular Sans, but now he could see it clearly. Horror's laughing fit faded, but he still grinned widely. It didn't look menacing, even with how sharp his teeth were. I need to tell Killer and see the look on his face. Don't! Oh, that's not it. Don't, Red said in a flat tone. I'd like to not be stabbed. He wasn't completely joking. We'd all like that, believe it or not. Horror's good humor faded, revealing a bit of the dangerous monster that Red was used to seeing. So let me give you a word of advice. If anything happens to Ink during the exchange, do everything you can to get away from us. I know what I said about letting you go home, and I'll try to make sure you do, because it's what Ink would want. But I don't know if I'll keep my mind if he's hurt again. Capiche? Red had the feeling that Horror was not the only one that would lose it if Ink was hurt in front of them. He thought about the black tar that leaked from Dust's eye sockets and nodded pensively. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. It's been so long. Capiche. Another water break.
There's so many stuff in this fic that I low-key forgot that happens.
No, me too. I was like, Dust. I drips. And then I was like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah. Silliness.
They're just dealing with a lot of stuff.
They're dealing with so much things. It's just too complicated. There's just so much going on. It's a bit busy. There was no sunrise. There was no sun to rise in the Omega timeline. But morning came. With it came the day of the exchange. Ink had tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time he almost drifted off, he'd startle awake in a cold sweat, convinced that he had heard someone in the house. Aren't there people in the house? Okay. There was no one but the people who were supposed to be there. No guard surrounded the house. Dr. Felgaster did not break down the door to take him. Ex-Gaster did not manifest out of the shadows and threaten to kill Cross if Ink resisted. Okay, that makes more sense. At 6:30 in the morning, Ink's bracelet showed an axe symbol. Ink only said, "I'm okay, I'm safe," before Horror hung up. There was nothing else that should be said in this place. Cross had already located the alternate universe Ink had told him about. The details of the trade-off were already hammered out, with none of them verbally confirming its location. Dust, Killer, Horror, and Cross would arrive with red. That's not a comma. Dream, Blue, Edge, and Color would go with Ink. Gino was an unaffiliated party, but Ink made it clear to the gang that he was a friend who would be moving to Horrortail for at least a while. Judge had offered to go to Zephyrtop too, but Ink knew that if the gang, especially Horror and Killer, saw him bound and standing in front of an Undyne again, they would not take it well. The gang warned that Red would be restrained in magic nullifying cuffs, but left unharmed. In return, Ink would be restrained as well, at least until he was out of the Omega timeline. It was one of the acquisitions they made so the council would not look at the exchange too closely and realize the Star Stanzas weren't coming back. It was a solemn group that met up in the kitchen of Dream's old house. Underswap Asgore had left early in the morning with Judge guarding him to make sure he got back to Underswap safely. She returned as Ink was trying to force him to eat breakfast. He was sure the food that Blue cooked tasted great, but right now it tasted like cardboard. Ink struggled to finish half a plate and saw that the others were in similar situations, even Blue himself. He pictured the gang like this, including Horror, and released a shuddering sigh. Things are going to be okay. We'll all be safe in Horror Tale soon. Ink did not let himself think about any alternatives. He restored access to codes. His restored access to codes confirmed what he suspected. The world that had been meant
Is this the chapter?
I don't know, Rosa. I'm stressed.
Is this the... You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know.
Were
I know. I was thinking that in my head. I was like, please.
Oh my
Give
god,
me a
is
break.
this the chapter? Oh.
I'll lock in. I'll lock in it if it is. Oh. Deep breaths. Okay. The chapter. Ink did not let himself think about any alternatives. His restored access to codes confirmed what he had suspected. The world that had meant to become Sephiroth had its landscapes completed. It was merely empty. The trade could happen in a neutral place that no one else had heard of.
Luan!
The bomb in the
Hi,
cuff on his...
Luan!
Luan! Oh my god! Hi, Luan! Shakes you back and forth. Puts you in my pocket, steals you away, and keeps you in a guinea pig cage.
Tomorrow's a big day for the Roseverse community.
I'll give you some tubes and I'll pour you little cups of tea and everything.
Luan, can I say
I'll give
what's
you little-
happening tomorrow? Do I have permission?
We know what's happening tomorrow.
I'm asking if I'm allowed to say it publicly.
Oh, Zero.
No, it's not bad. Luan is coming back from their medical break tomorrow.
Yippee!
Yes!
Everyone clap their hands and send them $2.
Yes! Yay! I'm so excited.
Quinn, advertise yourself in chat, please. Quinn, get to it, Chop Chop. Let the people know. Let the people know.
For anyone who is confused on who this person is, this is the voice actor of Korkara. Yeah! And one of our really good friends in the Rose Gang.
Yeah. Skips for joy. What a wonderful break in between this absolutely horrendous event that is
It's
about
just
to
gonna
happen.
be. Oh god, I'm like scared, Beetle. Read it, just fucking read. I'm scared.
Luan, hug me. Okay. The bomb in the cuff on his leg was still active, but the tracker nullifiers were out, meaning he could leave the Omega timeline. Things would be fine. It would be fine. He'd be back with his family soon. Oh, it might be this chapter.
No, it totally
Judge
is
gives
this
them some
chapter.
Judge waited until the dishes were washed to uncomfortably bring out what would be Ink's restraints. It was a kind of fabric with loops. It was long enough to go around his wrists, his waist, and potentially around his ankles. Judge did not move, but Ink still found himself stepping back. Gino shifted in place but did not rise from his chair as Ink shook his head. I have to, or they might change their minds. Judge did her best to remain neutral, but her clenched jaw showed just how angry she was. She did not want to do this. Blue and Dream did not want to do this. The gang also did not want to do this. Not really. But they all felt they had to. Ink hoped that maybe, after this, they wouldn't need to again. It's okay, Ink said steadily. I trust you. Blue gave him an absolutely wretched. The look Blue gave him was absolutely wretched. Do you want to wear your purple cloak? Blue asked gently. It would hide the restraints, but it would also hide Ink's identity. Not from the likes of Felgaster and Fel Alphys, but from any well-meaning people who might think Ink was being captured again. Ink swallowed roughly, but nodded, unable to find his voice. Gino ended up having to get his shield cloak out for him because his hands were shaking too badly. Ink's hands were tied together with the soft but sturdy kind of fabric. The restraints were looped around his waist with a long, loose end left hanging that someone could hold on to. To Ink's relief, Judge did not tie his ankles, gag him, or cover his eyes. It's nice that they got fabric instead of, like, full-on magic nullifier cuffs. Like, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't end well. Not that this will. The restraints didn't hurt, but it'd be more difficult to break out of them without something to cut through them. Ink had a scalpel in his satchel, but he shouldn't need it. He would be released once they arrived. Ooh. The purple cloak was placed over it, and his distinct hooded scarf hiding the brown, black, and green. I got this. Corfrisk appeared on cue and kept their head down, as though they could not make themselves look at any of them. The door area is clear. A few of them nodded. None of them said they were going to stop in a random AU before heading to their true destination. Color took them through the shortcut. Instead of feeling relief upon seeing the space filled with doors, Ink's anxiety dug deep into his bones. He tried to calm himself down with steady breathing. We're okay. This is not a trap. Trust the star sands. Trust the stars, Cor, Frisk, and the others. Cor, Frisk. The short walk from the shortcut to the door they needed froze a mere 15 feet. It felt like every step took hours as the guards of the group grew tenser and tenser. They were all waiting for the moment something would happen, whether it be the explosion of the cuff or Dr. Felgaster himself emerging from behind a door. The door's area remained empty. The cuff did not explode. No well-meaning observer tried to save Ink. Dr. Fell and his guards did not emerge to demand Ink's arrest, nor did Fell Alfies appear to threaten him. They're planning something, Edge said lowly. Absolutely. Blue shoulders slumped, and said absolutely, because I completely missed that sentence. Corfrisk showed them to a door. It was a simple one for a basic Undertale variant. One glance at it told Ink that it went to a post-pacifist ending timeline, meaning the underground would be empty, but not because of the genocide route. Judge went through first and returned. It's safe. She clapped a hand on Ink's shoulders briefly. Good luck, Ink. I hope I hope to see you in better circumstances. There wasn't time for drawn-out goodbyes, but Ink managed a smile. Thank you, Judge. I wouldn't be here without you. She nodded and stepped back to stand by Corfrisk. Color went through first, followed by Dream. Ink felt Edge and Blue at his shoulders, with the latter holding on to his restraints, not to keep him contained, but so that they would not be separated. He gathered his green, black magic just in case, squeezed his eye sockets shut, and stepped through the door. With that, Ink was out of the Omega timeline. His feet touched the stone of the ruins, but the cuff on his leg did not go off. Ink barely took a moment to comprehend that he was still unhurt before he opened his own portal and they were all taken to Zephrotop. This time, his bare feet landed on healthy green grass. That would bring me so much joy. Oh my god, imagine being so stressed and you in grass. Let me take a sip of water. Okay. Ink stared out over the wide open field, watching the grass sway in the gentle breeze. Bits of dew clung to some of the strands, glistening in the sunlight. He instinctively searched for the castle and circus that Prism had described from his own multiverse. It wasn't there. There were forests and the grassy field and the brilliant blue sky with its bright sun, but there were no buildings. This world had no residents. No people moved in here to develop the world and make it a home. They never had the chance to. Top was not here. Undertop was not here. Aster was not here. Ink did not realize he'd been hoping that Aster had ended up here until he had arrived in Zephrotop himself. Ink? Blue considered him worriedly. I can get the restraints off you now. Ink's throat felt tight again, so he nodded rapidly. Blue carefully freed him and fretted over his wrist despite the lack of damage. judge had been very careful not to harm him. If only Fel Alphys and Fel Gaster had a single fraction of her consideration. Blue tossed the restraints aside with a look of disgust, while Ink shoved his purple cloak back in his satchel. Color's eyelight never stopped moving, and his flames flared with agitation. That went too smoothly. Stay on your guard. Blue grimaced, but Ink could tell that he agreed with Color's assessment. The grassy field did not leave many places to set up an ambush, but the forest could hide something beneath its canopy of leaves. Ink checked himself over for injury, wanting to make sure the gang worry as little as possible. He scanned the others as well, but the only wrongness he had sensed was the lingering aura of illness from Dream. As he performed one last check, Ink sensed a familiar knife-like magic. A mixture of hope, longing, and desperation welled up in his throat, but he made himself speak. They're here. Although Ink's volume stayed quiet and soft-spoken, his voice felt far too loud in the silence that gripped Dream, Blue, Gino, Edge, and Color. Everyone immediately tensed. Edge's expression hardened while Color's jaw clenched. But Blue seemed to steel himself while Dream shivered slightly. Only Gino was completely calm. He held Ink's gaze and nodded reassuringly. I'll keep an eye out. He vanished, but Ink sensed him reappear atop one of the boughs of the trees. Ink cast his senses outwards, scanning the gang as best as he could, and felt his soul sink. A dark fog had covered them all, shocking Ink with its depth. His green magic stirred, followed by his codes reading, and he struggled not to let his expression change. Ink was not Dream. He was not sensitive to negativity and did not even notice its presence more often than not. But this fog was not simply negativity. In hindsight, Ink should have realized that Corrupted's attack would leave an impact on the gang. The negative magic clung to them, clouding their presences in Ink's senses. Ink wondered how much of it was because of Corrupted's access to Nightmare's magic, and how much their own negativity brought on by what happened in Dreamtale and Horrortale. It made Ink nervous, but he knew the gang would never harm him. It was his companions that he was worried about. The gang was already stressed due to the Nightmare's condition, Cross's condition, Horrortale, and Ink's capture. Ink could only pray that they would resist their instincts to react violently if something went wrong. He kept track of the gang's progress and turned towards their direction, as they approached at the other end of the grassy field. Blue stepped up beside him and grasped his upper arm. Ink's nerves flared up, for he reminded himself that it was only Blue. The hold was not to restrain. If anything, it was in case he needed to pull Ink out of danger. The gang's silhouettes appeared on the far side of the field. A closer look revealed that Red was being carried over Horror's shoulder. Ink had barely even noticed him at all due to the cloud of negativity that covered the gang. As the gang grew closer, Ink's view of them grew better and his concern for them increased. Killer already had a knife in his hand. Horror's smile and eye sockets were too wide to be calm. Dust prowled forward like a predator on the hunt, not looking away from Ink's captors for a second. Cross's eyelights were such a bright purple that Ink could see them from this distance. The gang halted at the edge of the field and Horror set Red down. Killer immediately grabbed his arm, like Blue had held Ink's, his knife held tightly in his opposite hand. Red did not look at him, instead glaring straight ahead. Although he appeared uninjured, he was cuffed with his hands bound in front of him and stood as if he was trying not to show he was in pain. Ink did not need to look to know that Edge had been tense. Nightmare's gang stood at one end of the field. The Star Sanses and the guards gathered at the other. For a moment, they stared at each other in silence. None of them greeted each other. None of them tried to speak, or question, or make excuses. Perhaps it was better that way, because none of them wanted to cause the tense silence to explode into a fight. Ink caught Horror's eyes, but his wild expression did not soften. Ink wished it would, because maybe that would break the tension that crackled in the air between them. He wanted to call out to his brothers, to tell them he was okay, but he feared his voice might not carry. Instead, he showed his unbound arms. Cross nodded curtly, and Dust unlocked Red's cuffs. Blue stepped forward with Ink, and Killer stepped forward with Red. They locked eyes, and Ink could not make himself look up to see if Blue matched Killer's mistrustful expression with one of his own. Killer released Red, Blue released Ink. Ink knew what was expected of him. He and Red walked in silence towards their own side. Ink's soul pounded harder with every step. His hands were free, he was not gagged, his family was right there. He wanted to run to them, as tightly as he could. As he told them he missed them, but he restrained himself. He saw Red's hands trembling a little and wondered if he wanted to run over to Edge with the same desperation Ink felt. That soothed him a little, and he gave Red a tremulous smile. Red did not smile back. His expression was blank. They walked 5 feet, 10, 15, 20. Behind Dust's shoulder, Phantom Paps waved wildly. Ink could see his gloves moving, but he was still too far away. He could not see him clearly enough to get an idea of if he was merely greeting him from a distance or attempting to catch his attention. In return, Ink's voice wouldn't carry enough for Paps to hear a response from him. He made a note of his reaction anyway, because it could indicate something like someone hiding an injury again. Ink and Red walked 30 feet, 40, 50. As they reached each other in the center of the field, Red stopped. Unsure if this was some part of the exchange that he didn't know about, Ink stopped as well, so they were nearly shoulder to shoulder. Facing towards their families and friends, Red spoke quietly. Dust had black tar come from his sockets. Ink's eye sockets widened before he schooled his expression. He scanned the gang again, focusing harder this time, and was horrified to realize that it was not only an imprint of Corrupted's magic that he sensed. Killer was still clear and Cross's presence was muddled, but Dust had the smallest of festering glitches. He was starting to corrupt. Had Corrupted done that when he attacked Dust? Were all the other gang members subtly infected as well? Had the gang not mentioned it because the others were listening, or did none of them know? Killer and Nightmare had not noticed they were corrupted until they were told, and Ink had not been there to check on them over after Corrupted's assault in Dreamtale. Red kept walking. Ink forced himself to, as well, before the gang could think something was wrong. Something was wrong, but Ink could fix it. He could heal Dust before the corruption got too bad. Maybe he could figure something out to keep them all protected when they got home. He hoped that telling them that the explosive was still on his leg wouldn't make them worse. Ink would make sure it wouldn't make things worse. He would rejoin the gang. The gang and the stars would talk peacefully, even if it was only for a moment. Ink would introduce Gino, and he'd go with them to Hortail. In fact, the gang was willing to let them move there, spoke volumes. They did not want to fight either. No one here did. Ink would help the gang and heal the minor symptoms of corruption they were showing. Then he wanted to cook with Horror, read with Dust, prank with Killer, and hang out with Cross. He wanted to stabilize Phantom Papyrus, save Nightmare, and heal Error. He just wanted his family. Killer's gaze caught Ink's, and his hard expression faltered. For a single moment, he softened the slightest bit, as his white eyelights appeared in them. Ink saw Killer's desperation to get him back safely slip through. There was a noise and a powdered hum. Ink reacted on instinct and threw up a black shield over his back. Something struck it hard enough that he was thrown forward, falling onto the grass. Ink laid still a moment, too shocked to move, then instinctively reached back for whatever was stuck in his shield. It only took a glance for him to realize it was a magic spear. If Ink hadn't shielded himself, the purple weapon would have gone through his shoulder. Sorrow tore through Ink's aching soul before he realized the truth. That was even worse than betrayal. Judges' spears are red. Ink! The silence had grasped the grassy field, shattered when Horror screamed. The agonized sounds was a more grief-stricken howl than a shout. It forced the last of Ink's shocks from his mind, and he realized the gang couldn't see that he had shielded himself. He pushed himself up to his hands and knees in time to see a glowing indigo bone attack shoot past him. Ink blocked it on instinct, forcing himself to his feet, and felt an odd weight that left him slightly unbalanced. The spear was still stuck in his shield. He reached back and pulled it out, causing it to vanish. Ink looked up to see the gang charging towards him, intending to get between him and the apparent danger. Behind him, Ink heard a Gaster Blaster powering up. A similar sound came from within the forest near Gino's location, unaccompanied by the hums he now recognized as Undyne spears. No! Ink's attempt to shout was a pathetic whisper compared to Horror's cries. Stop! I'm okay! It wasn't them! It was... Ink looked at Cross and his voice died in his throat. Killer's eyes were gone. Horror's glowed red and dust burned from within the shadows of his hood. Cross was at the back of the group, but unlike the others, he stared straight back at Ink. Unlike the others, he was calm. His eyelights were a vibrant, calculating purple. Judge, Fell Undyne doesn't have purple spears, but X Undyne did. Ink couldn't move. He could not speak. He tried, but he could barely breathe through the tightness in his throat, let alone cry out a warning. He could barely hear. His soul pounded so loudly, nearly covering all other sounds with its heavy pulse. His fear curled in his ribcage, spreading outward until his fingertips felt as cold as the metal cuff on his ankle. His breathing rasped in his throat, harsh and strained, and he knew that it was reflected by the fears of everyone around him. Dream and Blue, in reaction, the sudden attack they had considered, but did not actually think would happen. Color and Gino, who couldn't prevent anything despite their vigilance, Edge and Red, for each other as they feared they might lose one another after all. And the gang, fearing for Ink, who they thought may finally be safe, only for him to nearly get another spear through the back. A cold sense of comprehension fell over Ink like a blanket of shadows. The gang halted in place, like they hit a wall, staggering as they barely kept their footing. The sound of gaster blasters faded away, and Ink heard Edge and likely Blue fall to their knees, their armor clanking slightly as they crumbled. The sounds of the impacts failed to fully mask when Dream gave a small, horrified gasp. What a gift. Everyone I hate, all in one place. Well, almost everyone. Ink flung himself backwards. Shadow struck his previous position, curling closed like ropes that had missed their mark. Corrupted stepped through his portal with casual ease, his mouth curved into a sly smile, and his eyelights left a demonic, toxic-looking slit. His gaze locked onto Dream, who stared back at his twin with a horrified look on his face. Nightmare? Corrupted smiled and said what he knew would hurt Dream the most. Yes. As Dream's eyelights lost their color and faded to black, Corrupted's head tilted slightly and his sharp smile grew wider. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me. For a moment, Ink thought that someone had somehow told Corrupted where they were instead of him tracking them through their negative emotions. A moment later, Ink wished that was the case as another foreboding familiar sense of wrongness fell over him. Despite the danger, he froze in place, his eye sockets going round as he looked at the sky. Please no, not now. The others followed his gaze, and Killer began to laugh hysterically while Color swore. The white crack in the sky did not fade. Instead, it grew wider, allowing Error to step through into the world that would have become Zephyr-Top.
My husband!
Jesus Christ, Rosa!
He's come to say hello!
Rosa! You scared me so bad! This is the worst moment for you to scream about your man, okay? Holy shit.
Someone clip that.
Oh my god.
Someone clip that.
Oh my god, my heart is fucking racing. Holy shit.
My husband!
You could have waited. You could have waited. Let me finish. Literally like a few more sentences. I gotta lock in. This is a dramatic moment, okay? The others followed his gaze, and Killer began to laugh hysterically while Color swore. The white crack in the sky did not fade. Instead, it grew wider, allowing Error to step through into the world that would have become Zephyr-Top. Strings hung off his body and limbs, their ends frayed like they had been snapped. The first one that Error sought out was Ink. His expression even softened when he saw that the protector appeared to be unharmed. But then he wasn't looking at Ink. He wasn't looking at Corrupted, Color, read, or even dream. Air's gaze locked onto Cross, who stared back dispassionately with glowing purple lights. The destroyer's features twisted with pure hate. You. Ink futilely reached for him. Air, no! Air lunged for Cross with a feral glitching scream. Dun dun dun! Alright, that's the end of the stream, guys!
No, it's not!
Guys,
I get the chapter! I get the chapter!
And then the next chapter is Ink is safe and happy because
I
Air
get the
actually
chapter!
jumped and hugged
I
Cross,
get the chapter!
and then they all skipped around.
I get the chapter!
You get to have. I'm happy you get this chapter. I don't want to read it.
Yes!
You get that chapter. Have fun. Fuck. I'm okay. Oh, thank God.
yes! Oh my god, I need to stop yelling so loud.
You're literally like cutting off because of how high you yelled. That's why it scared me so bad, because it was like a high pitched, like ringing tone.
Chapter 37. Ignited.
She is so excited.
Okay, I need to calm down.
I remember you got mad at me because I was reading the when the corrupted, like, was beating the shit out of
Yeah,
him.
that should have been my chapter.
Now this is yours. You get what you want in the end.
Pimio.
That was a lot of pressure.
Thank you all for being here. I want to thank the
I'd like to
economy.
thank my manager.
I want to thank
Oh
the
my
Aram hair.
God.
That's why he showed up at the end, because they need to make out in this chapter. That's why I'm so excited to read it.
Oh yeah, totally. A lot of people need to make out in this chapter. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
It was a Saturday in Undertale. Saturday meant lunch at Toriel's for Alphys, Undying, and the others Frisk had befriended on their journey through the underground. It was a tradition they started once New Home City, a city proudly named by Asgore, you can tell, was fully established and things settled down on the surface. At first, it was just Toriel, Frisk, Alphys, Undying, Sans, Papyrus. Eventually, Asgore, Flowey, and Metaton joined them as well. Even Napstablook would wander in on occasion, though that was only when Metaton visited, and they mostly kept to themselves. Metaton did not show up that often since he was usually on tour, but he was there tonight. They were all there, minus Napstablook, who wasn't feeling up for it today. To be honest, Alphys wasn't really feeling up to it today either. From what she had been told, the Protector was being held captive by the Omega timeline. The multiverse was on the verge of collapse, Aster was missing, and Stretch had not made contact with her in days. Fun. All those terrible things were happening, and Alphys was safe in Toriel's home, eating lunch. Toriel's cooking was amazing. Like always, she was sure. But today, it was tasteless to Alphys. It was not the first time that her position in the Omega Timeline Science Division had brought her stress. It made Undying worry, it made all of them worry, but mostly Undying. She understood that Alphys could not tell her everything, even if she hated it. It was a surprise to everyone who knew about it to learn that Undying wasn't that involved with the multiverse. She could easily have become the captain of the Omega Timeline's guard if she wanted to, but she chose not to. Alphys suspected it was because of her. Undying saw how stressed— hold on, my music is about to end. I need to fix it. Actually, it should be fine for a little bit. That should be okay. Okay. Alpha suspected it was because of her. Undying saw how stressed the multiverse could make her and did not want to add to it by rushing into devastating battles across alternate universes. If Undying died out in the multiverse, no reset would bring her back. If it did bring her back, it might not even be her, according to the research that the scientists throughout the multiverse had conducted. That terrified Alphys, and Undying knew it, even if she did not know all the details why. Undying loved fighting and had a strong sense of justice, but she wouldn't run out to find danger like that. But they were all in danger anyway, weren't they? The multiverse was slowly dying. Now that Alphys knew other multiverses existed, she understood that Undertale would go when this one did. If their multiverse did. She tried not to lose hope. It was difficult to feel hopeful when she knew that the ones that wanted to fix everything were stopping the only person that could fix everything from doing exactly that. Is it not to your liking, Alphys? Toriel asked kindly. Alphys jumped. Her eyes darted nervously around the table, but only Undying, Toriel, and Mettaton were paying her much attention. Sans had told a lame joke that caught Frisk's interest, Flowey's annoyance, and Papyrus's exasperation ire all in one swoop. She wondered if he noticed how upset she was and had done it on purpose. Knowing him, maybe. Or maybe he just felt like saying a particularly bad pun. It's fine, Lady Toriel, Alphys stammered. I'm just distracted. The sound of the Mew Mew Kissy Cutie theme song was not a welcome one. Alphys hoped for a call, but hearing her ringtone made her stomach twist with dread. In her haste to answer, she didn't read the caller ID or notice as she accidentally hit the speakerphone option with her claws. Stretch, are you okay? Alphys asked frantically. There was a beat of silence before it stretched on for too long. A voice that wasn't Stretch's came through. Hello, Alphys. My name is Top. Oh! Alphys's face flushed as she realized her mistake, but she gathered herself. I'm sorry, I was waiting for another call too, along with yours. The table was silent as everyone unfortunately listened in. Alphys should turn the speakerphone off. She should get up and excuse herself from the room. She could not make herself move. Corfus told me to expect a call from you, she continued awkwardly. They had seemed very upset and distracted as they did, vanishing as soon as they passed on their message. Alphys had an idea as to why, but could only hope that someone like Blue could track Corfus down and comfort them. To his credit, Top did not linger on her mistake. Good. I guess they haven't told you that I'm an expert on the void. I do not know if you've been told, but there was a fire in the skyscraper. One of the core projects apparently exploded. His voice was not gentle, but it was quiet. So quiet that she struggled to hear him, even with the speakerphone on. Aster is missing. They believe he was at Ground Zero. Top sounded hesitant as he spoke, like he was praying that he wasn't the one who gave Alphys that news. Unfortunately, Alphys already knew. Cor had told her about Aster's disappearance as well. Stretch had not. She had not heard from him since she left the skyscraper, right before part of it burned. Her despair fought with her hope as the words Cor, Aster, and missing echoed in her head again and again and again. He could be alive and trapped in the codes, Top agreed. I am trying to find him. Alphys's hand flew to her mouth, and she forced herself not to bite at her knuckles. For a moment she struggled and held back a blurted question as to why he thought she could help him when she had made so many mistakes in the past. That was in the past, and she refused to let Aster down. Her hand lowered from her mouth, and her claws tapped anxiously on her leg. What can I do to help? Can you travel to Undertop? Top asked. If Aster's in the void, I have several ways to potentially locate and retrieve him, but I could use some assistance. Of course, Alphys said instantly. Undertale was one of the alternate universes that had its own, heavily guarded and reinforced, multiverse gate. As a popular destination for the multiverse residents, Undertop did as well. Give me an hour. Thank you, Alphys. She could hear the warmth in Top's voice. He hung up without saying goodbye. Alphys was glad. It would feel too foreboding if he did. Alphys's hand shook as she put her phone in her pocket. She took a moment, preparing herself, and raised her head to look at the silent monsters, Flower, and Human at the table, all of whom stared at her. Alphys remembered when she had finally told them the whole story about the Amalgamates and Flowey. Frisk, and to a lesser extent Sans, had already known what happened then. This time, there was only Alphys. Alphys? Undyne's voice was low. What's going on? Resonating. I would. Alphys removed her glasses and wiped at her eyes. She put them back on and looked at Undyne. There's something I need to tell you. In the world that could have become Zephyr-Top, the grass fields and forests had been empty for so long. Mere moments after the first people stepped inside that abandoned world, it became the site of a battle. Any hope for peace shattered as Error lunged for Cross. His shriek was so horrifying that it sent lances of pain through Ink's skull. The Gaster Blaster that Error summoned gave an even more spine-chilling roar as its maw stretched wide. A gigantic purple hand manifested in front of Cross and blocked the blast. He's cheating! The impact was strong enough that it caused his cape to whip behind him and sent dust tumbling into Air's path. Black chains wrapped around all three, and Ink pulled them away from each other, throwing Air towards the edge of the trees and Dust and Cross towards Killer. He and Horror were already locked in combat, with Color and Edge respectively, while Blue was frozen in place, staring towards Ink with a panicked expression. A chill crawled up Ink's spine, and he turned, blocking shadowy tentacles with his black magic before they could go through his chest. Corrupted's grin was so wide that it looked like his jaw had detached, leaving it as an unhinged gape, but it was his eyelight that caught Ink's attention. He was not looking towards Ink, but out of his peripheral at Dream, who charged towards his brother with yellow light flickering feebly in his hands. "Nightmare, no!" Ink winced at the similarity to his own cry towards Error. Corrupted's grin grew wider, revealing that his jaw had indeed become unhinged like it was broken. I love the Ink and Error parallels in this to Dream and Nightmare. Ink barely raised a shield in front of Dream before Shadow struck it hard enough that he felt the reverberations through the ground. Dream kept his footing, but otherwise did not react, not even to flinch. He was so frozen that he could be mistaken for stone. He simply stood there, staring at Corrupted with a hopeless glaze to his sockets, even as the shadows that were his tentacles lunged for him again. Blue grabbed Dream and propelled himself forward with a bone attack, only to slam directly into Horror. Any sense of calm was absent from Horror's face as he blindly swung at them with his axe. Blue pulled Dream down with a frightened yelp, and the axe arsed over their heads. Ink separated them with a shield, flinching as Horror's axe slammed into it. The force behind the blow was enough to tell him that Horror wasn't playing around. He was going for the kill, just like Error was. He charged after Cross with a single-minded focus, making his target move so rapidly to avoid the Destroyer's attack that he appeared to be a white and black blur. "Stop fighting each other!" Ink begged. "Ex-casters!" The roar of another blaster drowned out Ink's voice, and he swore. Even that wasn't loud enough for him to be heard over the battle. Flashes of light flared from between the trees and told him Gino was fighting someone in the forest. Killer had lunged for Color, while Dust went after Red and Edge, his eyelids glowing with a wild, feverin light. None of the gang so much as looked at Ink or went over to make sure he was okay. Are they distracted, or is Corrupted making them hallucinate again? Ink struggled for a moment, gaze darting desperately from fight to fight. He focused on Error, and his expression hardened. One problem at a time. Ink's chains wrapped around Corrupted, and he yanked him away from Dream and Blue. More chains wrapped around him, but Ink knew they would not hold him for long. Not even for him to get close enough with Cyan. Corrupted was a huge threat, but Error could literally destroy the world around them. Ink halted next to Blue, shield in hand. "Here, take Cyan." Blue shoved Ink away from him as shadows lashed out, piercing into the ground at their former position. Ink rolled back onto his feet, pushing down his annoyance that he'd been shoved aside since he was the one with shield, stars damn it, in favor of gratitude for Blue's help. When Ink looked up, Blue was even further from him as he desperately kept himself in Dream ahead of Corrupted. Ink chained him down again, wrapping them around his limbs and tentacles, but he knew it wouldn't last. Corrupted was already strong, and his access to Nightmare's emotions magic made him even stronger. Behind Ink, there was an earth-shaking roar as Error summoned more blasters and fired them at Cross. The rest of the gang ignored Ink completely, like they did not even see him. Ink forced himself not to wallow in his dismay as he set a scan to track everyone for injuries and sent a mental promise to Nightmare. "Hold on a little longer, boss. I'll save you two." Ink launched himself towards Error and got between him and Cross. Both combatants instantly faltered, and Error physically held himself back with the string so he would not slam into Ink. Throwing caution to the wind, Ink fearlessly grasped the Destroyer's hand. Error jumped, staring at Ink with a bone-chilling snarl before his unhinged gaze focused slightly. "Error, this way!" Ink urged, pulling at his hand. Error tried to get around him and threw another bone attack at Cross, who barely dodged. Ink wrapped his chains around his glitching blaster. Error summoned before it could fire. "I can help you, Error," he said fiercely. That got through to him. His eyelight shimmered into a rounder shape before his eye sockets narrowed. Then a purple blast covered Error. He emerged, unscathed, but Ink had lost him again. God fucking damn it. Strains snapped at Cross like striking vipers, but they could not seem to keep their hold on him, instantly detaching with a flare of purple. Ink spotted the purple crack in Cross's soul, but focused on his need to help Error, not his anger towards Ex-Gaster in fear for his brother. He needed Error to stop before he could even think about helping the others. "You want me? Come and get me." He poked Error in the side of the skull with a chain, gaining the destroyer's attention. Ink bared his teeth and used his magic, propelling himself away from Cross and towards the trees. Like he hoped, Error immediately prioritized following him instead of attacking the piece of X-Gaster he could sense. Ink dodged Error's strings, slicing through the ones he couldn't evade using his black chains, and winced as several trees were destroyed in a blast of glitching light, clearing a bit of the area around him. His fear that Error would destroy the world that was meant to be Zephyral Top spiked up, but he breathed slowly, calming himself down. There was a patient in need of medical assistance, if only that patient would listen to him. Error! Ink dodged strings. I swear! He rolled to avoid a net-like trap. If you try to kidnap me again right now! His shield blocked more strings. Stop it! Error did not even react. His old mission had consumed him once more, leaving him to prioritize Ink's capture over all else. Ink had no doubt that the Corrupted would follow them back to the Anti-Void if he was caught. He also knew that Corrupted would be sure to kill his twin and corrupt the game first, a task made even easier if the combatants were unexpectedly thrown into the Anti-Void by Zephyral Tail's destruction. All Ink could do was try to keep Error from tearing apart the world around them. A stinging sensation began burning in his arm and the codes around him reacted. Black magic rippled, closing around him in Error like a spear, as it severed several of his strings and contained the destruction. Error startled and stared up at the canopy of black magic with an unhinged expression. His gaze dropped to Ink, twisting further. Blue strings burst from the ground and snapped close around Ink, but he severed them before they could even brush his bones. When he blinked, Error was in his face. Ink blocked the glitching bone attacks with a small shield over his sternum, but the force of the hit was enough to unbalance him and send him flying into the dirt. He rolled, and Error's feet slammed down where he'd just been. Ink got to his feet, soul pounding. Okay, he either wants to beat me into submission and whisk me away from here, or he's hallucinating. Either way, the corruption is holding on to him. Can I stop him? Although he was stronger now than back in a nightmarish negative tail, Ink wasn't confident in his ability to hold Error in place long enough to heal him. He had to at least try. Ink couldn't call to the others for help, and like hell he would use any of them as a distraction. The only ones that might stand a chance were Nightmare and the override-powered Cross, but neither were in control of themselves right now. Ink didn't let his fear for them get to him as he summoned his chains. Cyan, Gold, don't attack him no matter what. The snakes in his scarf tails gave no signs that they had heard him or that they'd obey. Using black magic under his feet, Ink launched himself forward at Error. Error's face held no recognition as he summoned a blaster and let it fire. Ink used his chains to pull himself aside, allowing the blast to streak by him. Ink blocked a glitching bone attack that would have gone through his back. His chains weaved through the strings, redirecting them, and Error gave a frustrated screech. 5 blasters appeared, and Ink twisted, wrapping himself in his chains. The blaster fired. Ink felt a bit of heat, but his impromptu shield protected him. He uncovered himself, dodging, only for Error to appear behind him. Ink's shield prevented his claws from piercing his ribcage from behind, but Error instantly teleported in front of him. He tackled Ink, still emitting a terrible screech. Ink's skull smacked into the dirt beneath him, but the falling leaves lessened the impact. Error held him down, glitching so badly it looked like his body was on the verge of disintegrating. Maybe it was on the verge of disintegrating. Ink's focus sharpened. His hands glowed with green magic, but Error tied them down with strings. Ink shielded his soul as soon as Error tried to summon it, preventing his strings from wrapping around it. Error still did not see the protector he desperately needed. The unhinged look in his eyelights had been replaced by the false serenity he showed when he tried to make Ink destroy his soul. Ink didn't let him then, and he wouldn't let him now. He readied his chains as Error grabbed his hands. The air above Error's head rippled. A familiar-looking paintbrush appeared from the distortion and slammed its black brush down directly on top of Error's skull. He crumbled like a discarded puppet, falling on top of Ink. Ink caught him and carefully set him down, noting how his eye socket was half closed and glazed, while his floating eyelight seemed dull and unfocused. The large brown paintbrush toppled down with Error, only to halt in midair before it could touch the ground. It rotated unsteadily, then righted itself and floated next to Ink. He instinctively held out his hand, and the large paintbrush settled in his palm. A tingle went up Ink's arm as a connection formed in his mind and soul, settling like it had always been there. As soon as he made contact with the paintbrush, Ink understood. His remaining terror washed away and his face lit up, just like the etching along the brush's handle glowed gold. "Broomy, it's you!" Ink hugged Broomy enthusiastically. Vague impressions of warm golden skies, brown oceans of paint, rainbow colors, and the smell of paper crept through his consciousness, accompanied by a fierce, encompassing protectiveness. The golden codes hidden in Ink's soul pulsed. You're an extension of the Doodle Sphere, aren't you? He did not need to ask out loud. Brumi heard it and confirmed it. Yeah! Okay. Sorry. Ink's amazement and joy curled around him, joining Brumi's joy at finally being here with him, but he focused on his new patient. Can you help me? Brumi noted that it would be simpler to kill Air. As a Doodle Sphere, Brumi had learned that lesson well as they killed any who tried to find them. Really, there had been so much destruction in the multiverse that a destroyer would not be needed again for at least 17,000 years. Air would probably regenerate by then, or something, so the harm would not be permanent. Could Brumi please kill the destroyer that tried to hurt Brumi's protector Ink again, please? Most people would be alarmed by the murder-happy and sentient paintbrush. Ink's family was Nightmare's gang, and he had seen weirder things out in the multiverse, so he merely repressed an exhausted sigh. No, Brumi. No more killing, please. Brumi noticed how upset he was and begrudgingly agreed, but only because Ink asked. They promised they would assist Ink in any way they could. Ink was not sure what that meant. He was not sure how to even use Brumi. He had so many more questions, especially about how they were created, but there wasn't time. Brumi agreed. They hated that they'd only been completed and sent to Ink when he was on the battlefield. For now, they told him that they were capable of acting at 20% capacity without his direct input. They also warned him that they were reliant on proximity to him in order to move and use any paints. Ink was torn between confusion and further delight. You can access your own magic already? Good job, Brumi! Brumi preened at the praise, though they corrected Ink that it was not really theirs. The paint were from the Doodle Sphere. Brumi was an extension of that Doodle Sphere. To use those paints, Brumi relied on Ink's presence and energy. Without him, they were just a paintbrush. Ink did not fully understand. He was not prepared to be holding an extension of the Doodle Sphere in his hands. But what else was new? He'd learn, as he always had. We'll have to figure out the range. If I need to, I'll grab you with my chains and pull you back to me. Brumi was ecstatic and told Ink not to hesitate to bludgeon their enemies with them if needed. Please no bludgeoning. Oh, I'm so happy. Brumi amended their previous statement and told Ink not to hesitate to non-lethally smack their enemies with them if needed. They then reminded him that a lot of their enemies were tough, so they could be smacked quite hard. They floated up from Ink's hand and circled around him to hover at his back, acting like he had already had a sash to carry them. Having them there felt so right that Ink wanted to cry. With Brumi there, Ink hoped he would never be stabbed in the back again. Ink kept his composure and focused on Air. A gentle pulse of green magic brought Air back to consciousness. His gaze locked onto Ink and clouded with guilt. Ink hoped the corrupted wouldn't enhance it. One problem at a time. It's okay, Ink soothed. He reached out. Let me help you. Air did not hesitate to grasp his hand. Brumi is truly the best character, and I'm so sad that, they got introduced so late in the game. Oh, I love Brumi. Iconic, guys. Okay. Killer saw Ink fall with a spear in his back, and the world faded away. His terror twisted into a desperate, soul-deep rage, quite literally twisting his soul with it. He lunged forward with the rest of the gang, trusting horror to check on Ink as the others defended him, only for a familiar chill to slither through his mind. Any fear slipped away as pure anger and hatred took control, fueled by his hurt at the Star Sands' inevitable betrayal. Killer forgot all about checking on Ink, or getting him off of the battlefield so he could heal himself and charged right for Color. Color opened his mouth but had no opportunity to speak as he threw himself aside, barely dodging the barrage of knives that Killer threw at him. His calm exterior cracked when a blaster opened its maw directly behind him, and he vanished just in time as the blast tore through several trees. Color did not have time to summon an attack of his own as Killer kept at him, keeping so close that his opponent barely managed to keep dodging. Killer was glad he could make Color shut up. He wasn't interested in talking, not anymore. He should have known this would happen. He should have known. Don't let him get away. Killer's vision tunneled and his mouth twitched into a feral grin. He did not feel like smiling. He hated the look on Color's face. That righteous, outraged, miserable expression pissed him off. Keller had no right to look at Killer like he knew this would happen, and that the gang could not be trusted. It was his side that betrayed them by attacking Ink. Ink had trusted them. He trusted the Star Sansons and their precious Omega timeline to keep their word. The gang was supposed to have his back, but they weren't watchful enough, and he got a spear in the back instead. Through the back, but not through his soul like he previously had, thanks to Horrortail Undying. Fear and concern pierced through the mind-numbing rage, but Killer did not turn away from his enemy to try to check on Ink. He had to trust that Cross or Horror would be guarding their healer as he healed himself. Ink had survived worse. He'll be okay. The wound shouldn't be fatal. He'll be okay. Anger overcame any worry once more. Focus on the enemy. Fight the enemy. Keep them from hurting us again. Kill them. Killer felt cold. He appeared behind Color's exposed back, knife in hand, but his attack missed. It missed? How could it miss? Ink wouldn't want me to kill him, Killer remembered. But they tried to kill Ink, something inside him hissed. Killer felt so cold. As he dodged the blasted Color's Gaster Blaster, Killer's gaze darted past him to the field. Wait, Corrupted was there. Hunting Dream in Blue. How long had he been there? How did I not notice when he got here? At that moment, Killer remembered the gang's charge being interrupted. He remembered falling to his knees as the familiar presence of shadows washed over him like an icy ocean wave. His vision doubled, with conflicting images overlapping each other, and he realized that none of the gang had checked on Ink. Not simply because they had expected someone else to do it, but because they were all overcome by the rage that the corrupted presence enhanced. Killer's own breathing was sharp and uneven, like he had been fighting longer than he could recall. Everything darkened and wavered, like Killer was looking through clouds, cloudy black water. His soul wavered with it, struggling not to change shape and enter the next stage. Shadows curled inside his head. Too late, he recognized what whispered in his mind and clouded his senses. He had no choice but to ignore Corrupted and to keep fighting. Okay. Green magic flowed from Ink's hands, and codes rippled into view at his call as he laid his hands on Aer's damaged jaw. Just like last time, Aer stared at him with quiet fascination, like he still could not believe that Ink could touch him. Maybe he was still shocked that Ink was willing to able to help him. Ink gave him a reassuring smile and focused on his task. Unlike the last time he attempted to heal Aer, the codes did not overwhelm him. It was easy to follow the trails he needed and locate the core codes that needed repairs. Ink wasted no time in inputting Aer's passcode ID. Data extended around them, glitching and infected with corruption. As they kept watch for danger, Broomy bristled and hissed in distaste. Ink kept note of them and his surroundings, but he kept his attention focused on Aer's codes. With Prism's lessons and the lack of additional rawness from the corrupted anti-void, it was easy to see the damaged codes and unwind the corruption from them. It was still an intense process, forcing Ink to focus completely on his task in order to not sever something he wasn't supposed to. Every movement and repair was as careful and precise as a surgeon's, taking away the infection while keeping the healthy codes unharmed. The corruption tried to cling onto Aer like festering wounds, but Ink's magic coated the codes like a shield, preventing any attempts of reattachment. The whole time, Aer clung to Ink's hand, his fingers squeezing so tightly that it was starting to hurt. That was okay, because Ink wasn't about to let go. The corruption lashed out at him, trying to burn and slice him in retaliation, but now that it was separated from Aer, Broomy gleefully intercepted. Red paint coated their brush, and like a cat hunting prey, they pounced and tore the remnants of corruption to shreds. It seemed to melt at their touch before it evaporated, dissipating completely. Ink saw the efficiency with which they disposed of the corruption and took a mental note to remember it. With the corruption removed, Aer's ability to be healed returned. Slowly, the rest of his frontal bone, perpendicular plate, sphenoid bone, and orbital plate regenerated. The frontal bone was the last piece to be healed, slowly and gradually flowing inward as Aer's skull reformed. At last, the wound closed. It left a jagged scar that went from the top of Aer's repaired eye socket, up his forehead and over the top of his skull, and back around to the front through his jaw, where it curled back up and ended at the bottom of his eye socket. It marked exactly where the damage had once been. Aer exhaled shakily, the sound one of both shock and relief in his painful grip on Ink's hand relaxed. Ink let the repaired codes fade and scanned his patient. The scans came back clean, though Air's health was still shaky. He'd need plenty of rest and a few more healing sessions to get his strength back. Are you feeling okay? Ink asked earnestly. Are you tired? Do you feel nauseous or dizzy? We'll still need to rid the anti-void of corruption to make sure it doesn't affect you again, but for now you should be feeling much better. Air lunged for him. Ink registered the lack of malice in the attack and did not try to defend himself. Brumi seemed to sense the same and did not come to his defense either, though they observed warily. Ink remained still as Air's arms wrapped around him and the destroyer hugged him. It seemed that neither of them expected him to do that as they both froze up. Ink was so stunned that he didn't react for a moment. Then he softened and hugged Air just as fiercely. You're welcome. Air stared at him, blinking in a slightly dazed way like he was still processing what just happened. Ink granted him a beaming smile. Let's get back to... A purple spear flew by him, nearly hitting Air's arm. It struck a tree and sliced clean through. Ink grabbed Air and Brumi, yanked them both aside as the trunk toppled. Ink released Brumi and they floated, snarling and flickering so rapidly that they left several after images of themselves. We're okay, Ink soothed. Please don't kill her. Both Brumi and Air were unhappy with that request, but they didn't demolish the area. He's back! Ink hadn't forgotten about Gino, and it seemed Gino had not forgotten about the spear that nearly went through Ink's shoulder. A clearing of felled and smoldering trees lay just within the forest. Ink's concerns were confirmed as he saw X Undying fighting Gino within the field of broken wood. Gino frantically dodged her spears. In his haste, he stepped on a protruding root and twisted his ankle, tipping sideways. Ink's shield flared up in front of him and X Undying's spear struck it instead of Gino's head. X Undying saw Air and seemed to decide that Ink's capture wasn't worth it. She threw a spear at each of them and bade a hasty retreat. Ink blocked the weapons. With his shield lowered, she had already summoned a purple-tinged portal. Unlike Cross's portals, it was almost crystalline in its shape. Its sharp edges reminded Ink of the magic purple hands the X-Gaster possessed Cross had summoned. He was just glad that X-Gaster had not chosen to appear himself. He called out to X Undying. Undying, we'll save you! Ink doubted he was loud enough for X Undying to hear him, but she paused. She looked back, and Ink caught a glimpse of her face before the portal closed. Her expression was eerily blank except for her eyes, which glowed a vibrant purple. The portal shut behind her, and Ink put that particular problem aside for now. He looked to Gino, scanning him as he helped them up. You okay? Yeah, she showed up with me without me noticing. I tried to sneak up on her in return, but it didn't end so well. Gino brushed the dirt from his legs and eyed Brumi with a puzzled expression. That's new. Where'd you get the huge paintbrush? Their name is Brumi, Ink introduced happily. He couldn't help but beam as he hugged Brumi to his side. They briefly settled down on the ground, their brush bending slightly from their weight, and he noticed they were a half-foot taller than him. Once Ink released them, Brumi floated up beside Ink's shoulder and appeared to give Gino a once-over. They greeted him by emitting a sound that was both a crackle like burning papers and the shrieks of metal scraping against metal. Their form shifted slightly like they were about to reach out with their black bristles. Gino stayed still as Brumi reconsidered and instead floated over to him, giving him a friendly pat on the head with their brush. It was more of a smack than a pat, considering they were a gigantic paintbrush, but Gino managed to not be knocked to the ground. Ink heard what Brumi wanted to say, and his smile softened. They said... wait, what did they say? They said thanks for protecting me. Gino stared at the gigantic, floating, unstable, sentient paintbrush. Brumi's brown handle split and a large, glowing red eye with a snake-like pupil stared back. The eye blinked and turned an equally fierce silvery white. Gino squeaked out a, "You're welcome!" Brumi acknowledged his gratitude with a twitching motion that made it seem like they were flickering between planes of existence, told Ink that this one was good and could continue existing, and serenely returned to float at Ink's back. Oh, I love Brumi so fucking much. Okay then, Gino said faintly. He gave Error a wary look. So this is the destroyer, right? Error glowered at him, baring his teeth. Yes. Gino scowled. His eyelight flashed a gradient of blue and red. Don't make me separate you, Ink snapped, then winced as Brumi hissed. Sorry. Can we focus, please? We need to heal Nightmare. Ink's sensor screamed in alarm, so sharp and piercing that it tore the breath from his chest. He did not even register the presence of the injury. He simply reacted before he could understand what he had felt. Ink's eyelights glowed green, and his healing magic held on. Oh god. Oh fuck, okay. Dream watched Air chase Ink into the woods and tried to focus on his awe and not his fear. No one could go toe-to-toe with the Destroyer, but there Ink was, fighting Air like it was just another battle for him. Seeing the focused calm in which the Protector faced the Destroyer, Dream was left wondering how many other times the two had encountered one another like this. In sharp contrast to Ink's dexterity and strength, Dream was practically carried by Blue as they were gleefully pursued by the corruption that possessed his twin brother. The oppressive, writhing veil of darkness and wide, sharp-toothed grin on Corrupted's face was something straight out of Dream's worst nightmares, encapsulating all of the darkest fears that Dream had about his brother's fate. The worst part wasn't even that the corruption's shadows had smothered his twin, leaving him cloaked in amalgamated darkness that Dream knew he'd never be able to pierce. The worst part was that Dream could still see the bits of his brother in the Corrupted's malicious form, like pieces of Nightmare had been purposely left on display for him to see and mourn. The sadistic glee in which Corrupted haunted his prey embodied every belief the general populace had about Nightmare. Gone was the gentle, kind soul Dream knew. In his place was a remorseless killer that was all too eager to play with his victims before he killed them. Nightmare's gain was equally driven as they clashed with Horror, targeting Red, Dust fighting Edge, and Killer attacking Color. Only Cross hung back, observing the fight with cold purple eyelids. The lack of concern they seemed to show for Ink, who had just been chased into the woods by the Destroyer, terrified Dream more than their ferocity. Ugh. Dream had little time to worry about the others as Blue barely dodged Corrupted's tentacles. His sharp smile remained as he focused on Dream before he adopted a disappointed expression. Are you truly so weak that you need to rely on him to fight with you, your little boyfriend, your little fucking gay boyfriend? Of course Dream can rely on me. Blue's smile was tense but defiant, just as I can rely on him. Corrupted's amused look dropped into one that was utterly scathing. Can you now? Just like you can trust your brother? Unease flashed across Blue's face, but he composed himself. Although he did his best to remain calm, the shadows pressed down on them and his chest heaved with each breath. Is that even a question? Indeed I can. It may be difficult, but there's this thing that brothers can do called communicate. My brother and I learned how, and it made our lives much easier. Corrupted considered him with a half-lit stare. Then where is he? Why hasn't he answered your calls? If Blue was unsettled, he put on a brazen face. I don't know, but I trust him to take care of himself. Corrupted's mouth twitched like he had just heard a hilarious joke. You shouldn't. His attention locked back onto Dream. You feel at home with their family. Hurt flashed across Corrupted's face. Did you try to replace me? Dream flinched. Blue grabbed his arm and pulled him aside, yelping as tentacles sliced through the defensive bone attack he'd summoned. Nightmare, Corrupted, leisurely prowled after them, an eerily serene look on his face. When I'm done with you, my gain will find Ink, he promised. Although his voice was low and deceptively soothing, it seemed to crawl into Dream's head like icy water, slowly drowning him from within. We will force the Mega Timeline's location from him. Then we will tear this multiverse apart. Unfortunately, you won't live to see its fall, brother. You lost years ago. So give up. Red gave a terrified yell as he dodged an axe thrown by Horror. In his haste to avoid the attack, he did not realize someone was behind him, and it nearly hit Edge. Both Red and Horror recoiled, but the latter's eyelids were faint, like he wasn't fully awake. Behind him, Dust chased after Color with a ferocity that better fit Killer. Killer himself was by across, his head jerking from side to side in a way that could signal that he was rapidly shaking his head or was frantically looking for something. Whatever he shouted at Cross was lost as Dust fired at Color, who barely escaped the cage of bone attacks in time to evade the blaster's deadly light. As he continued to stalk after Blue and Dream at a sedated pace, Corrupted moved into Dust's view. Dust immediately disengaged from his own fight in order to throw himself further away from his corrupted boss. Dream did not have the opportunity to wonder why. He could only stare at the gain in horror. What did you do to them? Corrupted gave him a pitying look. Nothing. They're already mine. Just like this multiverse. Just like you. His smile stretched so wide that it appeared to split his skull apart with jagged teeth. I know what you feared, brother. A blast of negativity pulsed out from Nightmare and slammed into Dream's chest. It caused several other fighters to crumble to the ground, but none were as badly affected as Dream. Pain tore through his soul like it had been pierced by 1,000 shards of ice, and he curled in on himself, mouth open in a silent scream. He felt more and saw the attack coming towards him, but he was weak, always too weak. He couldn't dodge in time. The tentacle halted a mere inch from Dream's chest. The only reason it stopped was because someone had gotten in the way. The wound was far off-center, having gone through the shoulder instead of the center of the chest, but Corrupted sneered and slashed his tentacle sideways, slicing easily through fabric, bone, and soul. A pierce of blue fabric was cut free and silently fluttered down, disintegrating before it hit the ground. Dream stared at the horizontal bisect soul, encased in green as it flickered defiantly in front of the gray backdrop of a battle body. Why was the soul covered in green? Why was it in pieces? Why? Dream's vision was blurry and blackened at the edges. It darkened so much that he almost couldn't see the green magic that had covered the soul as soon as the first strike hit. Holding it together, the green glow intensified and Corrupted howled, yanking his appendage free. Blue fell forward, and Dream caught him. His hand landed on Blue's back, and he felt the wound Nightmare had left. He lifted his hand, staring at the dust and blood. So red. Why was there red? There was red and off-white dust. As Dream watched, Blue's pained look morphed into one of relief. Why? Why would he look relieved? Why? Blue opened his mouth. He tried to speak. He coughed more red. Hospital, Dream thought. On instinct, he opened a portal, not to underswap, but to... Dream slammed the portal shut, but it was already too late. For a moment, none of them understood what had happened. Then, Corrupted began laughing. His laugh was breathless and unhinged, sounding more like an agonized scream than anything joyful. Dream did not move. He did not let go of Blue. He did not try to get help or fight. It was already too late. I see it, Corrupted crowed, his face alight with sadistic glee. I found it! Thank you for leading me to my goal, brother. Shadows lashed outward like writhing tentacles. Each one passed through the chest of Dust, Cross, Killer, and Horror. For a moment, their souls illuminated, flickering with glitch-like shadows. Instead of crumbling, they all froze in place except Killer, who fell to his knees and screamed. Horror, Dust, and Cross ignored him, standing at attention with dispassionate expressions. Slowly, Dust's face seemed to vanish beneath the shadows of his hood as the darkness stretched downward, leaving only a quiet, sadistic grin. Horror began to laugh, the sound as broken and unhinged as his expression, as his features twisted into an agonized smile and wide, unseeing eyelights. Cross quivered in silence, his eyelights burning. I hope I gave myself a splinter. In my desk, his eyelights burning, and vertical cracks split the bones by his eye sockets, resembling the scars of his creator. His eyelights burned a vital purple, their forms shivering like they were struggling not to change shape. Killer shuddered violently and curled in on himself like he was in physical pain. No! He snarled, both desperate and defiant. Not again! Never again! His soul flickered, twisting into a blur, and changed back to a solid target as the glitching shadows faded. Killer gasped lowly and slumped to the ground, chest heaving with strain. Corrupted satisfaction curled slightly, and he sneered. You were always a disappointment. Shadows flared, but a black shield slammed into place, protecting Killer. Rather than retaliate or try again, Corrupted ignored Ink completely. He had no need to torture information out of the Protector. He had already achieved his goal, and found his target. Corrupted Nightmare vanished from the battlefield, with Horror, Dust, and Cross in tow. The Corrupted Guardian was gone, but the nightmares he wrought remained, tainting the air and clouding the mind of its target. As Dream sat there, useless, shocked, and too numb to react, Blue's soul shattered in front of his eyes, and only his eyes. Dream did not see a cracking bisect soul that was still held together by glowing green magic. Despite Blue's persistent presence in the world of the living, Dream felt his body dust. He did not feel the weight in his arms, nor did he feel that weight leave as Ink took Blue from his limp, worthless hands and pressed his glowing ones to Blue's wound, barely stopping the injury and the effects of Nightmare's deadly touch from killing him. The sound of a breaking soul, so similar to shattered glass, falsely echoed in Dream's head. Dream did not hear Ink cry, "Blue, hold on!" or Red's gasp of despair. He did not hear his own haunted whispers of, "Come back, come back, come back, come back." He did not hear Color's frantic, desperate reassurance as he shouted, "Dream, Blue's not dead! Ink's helping him! Dream, can you hear me? Dream!" Green magic flowed, fiercely holding on to the soul within it. But Dream didn't see it. His mind was trapped in nightmares as his worst fears play out in front of him. Dream did not cry. He did not scream. He did not mourn. He did not go numb. He did not turn to stone. At last, Dream lost the battle he had been fighting for centuries. It was a battle that no one fully understood or detected. Not Core Friss, not Nightmare, not Blue, not Ink, and not even Dream himself. The despair, negativity, and rawness he had been holding back finally consumed Dream, but he did not simply corrupt. He ignited. The blast was so violent that several trees were set ablaze. The heat was intense enough that Ink might have thought that his cuff had gone off if he wasn't so focused. He registered no pain as he instinctively shielded himself, his patient and anyone around him focusing mostly on the soul he held together with magic codes and sheer force of will. Beside him, Era recoiled, recognizing the similarities to his own painful corruption. Red howled in grief, held back by his brother as he tried to rush to the inferno. Juno stared at the fire in horror while Color looked away, unable to bear the sight. Killer weakly raised himself up from where he had crumbled to the ground, desperately searching for Ink. Broomy simply watched, dispassionate, wary, and not invested enough to try to interfere. By the time they all understood what had happened, it was too late to stop it. Freed at last, the corruption tore through Dream like a ravenous inferno. Actual fire rippled in its wake, burning a violent gold. 4 wings tore themselves free of Dream's back, twisting and wriggling like each individual feather was made of golden flames, and his facial structure was lost in shuddering fire. His eye sockets filled with fire, burning away at his eyelights. Sounds came from within the blaze that Dream had become. They were not screams, but distorted and howling laughter. It was the kind of laughter so many had laughed before when friends and brothers died and worlds crumbled. It was the kind of laughter that broke free when the last drop of hope they had was torn from them, and only oblivion was left. Although Dream's mouth stayed visible through the flames, his teeth sharpened and his fiery grin grew so wide it froze on his face, unable to falter. The fire was such a thick covering over the remainder of his skull that an initial glance made it seem like the smile was all that was left of his face. His clothes did not burn, but they too became flames, curling and lashing in the air like they were mere moments from bursting out into a firestorm and consuming everything in sight, Dream included. Only a circlet remained solid, incandescent upon his fiery head like a halo that matched the glowing intensities of his wings. It was as though the sun itself had taken the form of a dreadful angel. "Nightmare!" the rolling inferno roared. Then the corrupted, united form that had once been Dream was gone! For a single second, there was no sounds except for the wind through the surviving tree branches, and Blue's labored breathing. The remaining allies and enemies stared at one another in stunned silence, while Ink desperately worked to heal the wound in Blue's chest and soul. A gray figure appeared amid the desolation, their form flickering with fear. They looked like they should be crying, but their empty eyes held no tears. They were past the point of despair and shock, leaving them blank in expression, unable to emote, as their broken voice pierced through the haze. "Nightmare's gang is attacking the Omega timeline," Core Friss reported numbly, too overwhelmed to cry. "Ignited Dream and corrupted Nightmare are fighting. They're going to kill each other."
Yay! 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 Isn't that great, you guys? Didn't you have a wonderful time? Do we want to do the next chapter? Because I probably won't have enough time to finish it.
That's what I was thinking, because we only have an hour.
Yeah.
And this one's long. This one's long.
Yeah, this
It's-
one needs. I need to like.
Well, I'm gonna read it next because you just.
Well,
gave it to
okay,
me.
fine. Okay, I see how it is. No.
Well,
you're
you just
fine.
gave it to me because if we're ending.
Well,
here,
okay,
it's gonna be
yeah.
my
I mean,
chapter.
shoot, I forgot. I'm sorry.
Get off my
My
ass.
chapter's gonna be better.
So we're gonna
fine.
end it here. Let's take a moment to process that. We have time to at least process. Let's take a moment to process chat. Fresh, how are you doing? How are you doing? Look at the chat, Beetle.
I'm just. Yeah.
I can only think about the funny short Rosa made about Ignited. Okay, wait, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Shh. But yes, I think Ignited's really cool, guys. I say as I'm scratching at my head. He is really cool and strong and intimidating, I say as I look away. People are freaking out. It's a good stopping point, though. Why is he on fire? He is corrupted. By the way, just kind of curious, has Rosa played Deltarune before? Imagine a playthrough stream of it. I have not played Deltarune ever before, and I know nothing about it besides that Toriel and Sans get drunk together.
Rosa hates Deltarune, actually.
I
Rosa
don't-
hates Deltarune
Yeah,
and
I
wishes it would
don't like
die.
it. I don't like it.
No.
I
She
don't
just.
like it. Why did
She,
Corrupted
like,
show up?
actually hates
Why
it.
is anything happening? I've been torturing Fresh with the whole entire thing by leaving little hints and saying poor dream in blue. Dude, okay, can we take a minute to pause and like reflect on the Dreamberry in this? Like, I know Buddy is like writing them to be brothers. I completely get that. I understand, guys. He fucking, and it gets worse.
Totally get
It
that.
gets worse. That I'm just gonna say it gets worse, and I'm not meaning like angst-wise, because duh, that's gonna get worse. I mean like the patheticness they have for one another. It gets worse, guys. We haven't
They
even
get
gotten
gayer.
to the scene, which that's gonna be
Yeah.
insane. I don't even know who's gonna have that one. I think it's in 38. Is it?
It might be in 38, yeah.
I might have
38
that
or
one.
39, one of the twos.
But it's
One of the twos.
dude, imagine like you've been fighting corruption all your life, but as soon as your fucking boy toy dies in your arms, or like you think he does, that's when you're like, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I snap.
Everyone's gotta die. Everyone's gotta die.
Like
now.
I'm gonna go kill everyone in the Omega timeline now, and I'm gonna go kill my brother.
Immediately.
Like
Everyone's gotta die.
this was insane. Like I remember when this chapter came out, I had to like sit there and I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And I love platonic stuff, guys. I get like in trouble because people get mad at me because I will try to make everything platonic when it shouldn't be. I can't, guys. I can't. This? Them? In FTFO? They're supposed to see each other's brothers? Am I insane? Am I like the insane one here?
Yes.
I don't think I'm insane here, Beetle. They're like actually
I just
so
wanted to
fucking,
say it.
They're just so fucking gay. Like there's no ifs or buts about it. It's insane.
She says as she's dragged to the asylum.
It literally gets so much worse in their big scene. It gets so much worse. Oh my god. You aren't Rosa, don't worry. Thank you so much, Scholarly Storyteller. Thank you guys. Because I am all for Found Family. I am like the Found Family CEO, guys. I know it. Them? Me when my fucking boyfriend dies in my arms, so I finally snap. And there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. Me when my boyfriend was my last tie to fucking humanity. Bro. Bro. Take us.
Actually, I'm gonna email I'm sorry, buddy, right now.
They would probably
And
delete the
get
fic.
facts.
I can't
They
risk
will
that.
probably delete the fic.
Platonic relations is awesome.
Fuck.
Also a little underrated when you think about it. Oh, I love platonic relationships. Don't even get me wrong. Like, welcome to my channel if you're new here. All I do is platonic ships. Platonic ships? Platonic relationships. All I do is platonic relationships. That's all I do. That's literally on my
about
channel.
drink?
Besides drink and airmare. Like, that's the only two.
Yeah, I was
Oh, I also had to take down my Dustberry video because it got copyrighted and then it got blocked everywhere. So I'm gonna have to re-upload that later.
Oh good, re-upload it.
With a new song.
Here
But
it
if
is.
you're curious as to why that short got taken down, it's because it got blocked everywhere for some goddamn reason. So I have to re-upload it with a new song. Ugh.
Ugh.
Buddy
They
is a
hate
historian
creativity.
when it comes to Blue and Dream here, literally. Fresh, do you want a spoiler? Do you want a spoiler that I think will make you happy? It's nothing major. It's nothing major, I promise.
Oh, what is the spoiler about? I zoned out.
I'm gonna ask them if they want a happy spoiler that will probably get them excited for the next stream. It's gonna be.
Oh yeah.
It's nothing major. It's nothing major. Fresh is gonna be in the next chapter, I'm pretty sure. If I'm correct.
That's not a good. What? You just said this was a positive thing.
Look at their fucking name, Beetle.
Oh, sorry, Fresh Sans, my beloved. I thought this would be good for me as well, but
this is really happy for them. This is a really good thing for them. Yeah, Fresh will be in the next chapter.
Yay.
I'm pretty sure. So, I think so. Yeah, so he's gonna be there. Yeah, that's positive,
I
right?
actually ate him out of the page. I sucked his code out of the fic.
No.
He doesn't exist.
He's there, and he's great. He's
I
awesome.
put him in a soup.
He's interesting.
I put him in the soup, and I'm feeding it to the spilled ink.
Okay.
Cause that guy deserves it. That poor little guy.
Okay. All right, guys. We're gonna have to clock out here. Thank you guys so much for watching and joining us. Hopefully we'll be able to do it next week. I really want to finish before I go off home for the Christmas break. So even if I have to stream a day where like Beetle's not here, I will do it because I need to get this done because we cannot have this be on another hiatus for another fucking year. We need to get this done in November. Like, we need to get it done in November.
Yeah, we're getting done. We're getting it done. In
We need
November.
to.
Absolutely.
Genuinely, we need to. So, yeah, by November, we need to get this, like, done. Maybe even, like, over, like, one Saturday, like, we do it back to back just to get this shit done. Like, I need to.
Oh,
But-
yeah, if we start early in the morning.
Yeah, I know. We just needed... We need to lock
We
it out.
start at noon.
Literally, and we read, like, what, 6 chapters? Oh, my voice.
Yeah,
will
we could do
die.
it, honestly. With, like, a little well, what is it called?
Intermission?
Intermission. I was gonna say intervention, but, like, that's not exactly
It's
correct.
Not right. It's not the right
Not
word.
exactly. I mean, there definitely needs to be an intervention for two
I
grown
think I
adults.
should read all the 6 chapters.
I think I'll throw you out of a window, out of your second
I
story
think
window.
I should do it
Lovingly.
all, actually.
I am going to steal your glasses and put them in a high shelf that you can't reach, actually.
Okay. Alright,
What you gonna
guys.
do?
Bye!
Bye!